Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Man, did we class the show up a little bit for today?
Look at this!
Look who's here on the ultimate Cleveland sports show. That's the King's throne in the middle. Mike Polk, everybody. No, Maurice Clarett is with us for the entire show today. Maurice, thanks for coming in, my man. It's great to see you again. We're going to dive super deep into your story, which has a little twist and turn here and there.
Very gentle way of putting it, Jay.
Yeah, no. And we talked yesterday on the phone. Nothing is off base. He's going to talk about it all. And also what he's doing today. He's in a super good place today. It's a terrific comeback story. That's coming up later. First, you know the panel. I'm Jay, Adam the Bull over here. Mike Polk is in on his usual Tuesday, Thursday rotation. And G. Bush is here. Later in the show, these guys tip the scales. Not Mike, not Mo, not me. Adam the Bull and G. Bush are going to have a weight loss challenge. We're going to tell you how much they weigh now, how much they want to get to, and how they plan to do it. I will tell you that even after weigh-ins, my man was killing a bag of snack mix. Like just destroying that bag.
It was a medium-sized bag.
Get it out of the way.
It
Get it
wasn't
out of
even
the
a
way.
small one.
Mike Polk came in the studio and we were talking about weight loss, and he goes, I love how you guys are talking about how you're going to lose all this weight, and you're elbow deep in a
No,
bag
you got
of
to
chips.
watch the carbs.
I
You got to watch the carbs.
Bahamas yesterday for lunch.
So that was to make sure that they loaded up on their
Yeah,
weight.
you got to carb up.
Yeah, so now
That
they
was
can
your
lose
Fat
easily.
Tuesday.
All right, we're going to start today's program with news of the NIL. Yesterday we told you that the principals were voting. The vote closed Sunday night. They had 2 weeks to vote. Today I can tell you that the NIL, which would allow high school athletes to monetize their name, image, and likeness, actually failed. And it didn't just fail by a slim margin, guys. It was soundly defeated. Here's the vote total. 538 voted against it. 254 voted for it. 26 principals did not submit votes. Ohio, guys, the first state that had a proposal on the table to reject it. There's 9 states currently that have it. There's another 11 outside of Ohio that currently have proposals, but Ohio's the first to shoot it down. I talked with a gentleman who's very much in the know as to why this failed. He worked for 2 years at University of North Carolina in their athletics department, ushering in the NIL era at the collegiate level. He believes this failed primarily because of the wording that we pointed out originally was odd. It was to go into effect today. And the schools were just like, we're not ready to deal with this today. All the schools had to name a compliance director, an NIL compliance director. He told me many schools in Ohio don't even have an athletic director. So how are you going to add an NIL compliance director when you don't have an athletic director? Quick thoughts around the table on this being rejected. Bull?
I think I understand that supposedly they had to have an NIL direct. What was the position called?
Compliance director,
Compliance
essentially.
director.
He would look at all the deals and make sure they were good.
The bottom line for me is, if kids have the ability to make money, they should have the ability to make money. And I don't even like that there has to be a compliance director. Nothing should stay. If I'm 17 years old and I'm good at football, basketball, golf, soccer, whatever, I'm an actor, I'm a brilliant computer guy, and I'm 17 or 16, I should be able to make money.
Even with the pitfalls, though, that we've seen at the NCAA
there are
level.
risks. Yes, I get it. But this is going to happen. And if they needed these things, well, they should have prepared for it earlier.
Yeah.
They screwed up, and now it's going to happen anyway, and they're going to be behind the 8 ball.
It will be challenged in court. It likely
Yes.
will lose. It's
Yes.
coming eventually.
That's right.
The people that I talked to said that it was shot down simply because of the language, and they're just not ready for this yet. They want to
should've
make
changed the
sure
language.
that they have the infrastructure in place. Mike, what are your thoughts
It seems
on
intentionally foolish to put that language in there.
I
It
agree
almost
with
seems like
you.
somebody
Exactly.
was trying to spike it or something like
right.
that.
I
you know?
asked,
Is that
do you think
possible?
the OHSAA sabotaged this by putting that in? And the answer I was given was no.
It's just ignorance on
They
Ohio's
just said
part.
it was ignorance.
That's
they just
amazing.
didn't know what this entailed.
I don't know. Was there anything different about the other states that actually passed other
Some
than that?
have
like a
Wild Wild West mentalities.
Right.
Others have infrastructure.
like Wyoming
built
or
in.
whatever whatever. They're just like, yeah, whatever you want.
Yeah,
you
I
can
don't
pay
think
wherever you want.
yeah,
You can
Wyoming's not gonna
sponsor a
have
goat.
Wait a second, Mike. Ignorance from an Ohio governing body? Who
I
can
know.
see that
I know.
coming?
It is unbelievable.
Yeah.
No, it is. I don't think it's. I kind of agree with you. You quickly changed my mind right there because I thought it was kind of it's an awkward position to put a 15-year-old soccer player in to put that kind of pressure on him and say you have to represent my car dealership or something. But you're right. If they can make money, they can make money, and it's probably happening anyways through recruiting and underhanded. It's like gambling, where people are doing it anyways, and bringing in recruits. I'll get your dad a job in this district over here if you come and play at my high school. So why not just make it legal?
Maurice, I'm fascinated to get your point of view on this because you were a guy that absolutely would have been able to monetize your name, image, and likeness. You were a superstar as a freshman in high school. You could have made money for 4 years. What are your thoughts on this?
No, it's kind of to build on what these guys said, but I think that you have to start it with the thought that you will improve upon it. Like, nobody's going to start anything and it's going to be perfectly suited and you're going to have the right checks and balances and the controls in place in order for it to be like the perfect thing. But you start it, you get going, and you learn from stuff. It's no different than everything else in life, but when you have these staunch positions and you have like these underhanded ways of people sticking language inside of things, knowing that they'll fail, you just kind of prolong the conversation.
Right.
And so for me, you get started somewhere knowing that, hey, some people will get hurt, some people will get taken advantage of, but if we take those things and we learn again, but I don't see how you're going to outfit every school with compliance directors by next month, next week, or
that's
4 weeks.
That's not happening.
But that can become a convenient excuse as to why they keep on punting the ball.
Yes.
And
good way of putting it.
When you say, like when he said, like who needs a compliance director for everybody in the first place?
Many of these schools will never have to deal with this.
Some of these tiny little schools, none of their kids are making money anyway.
No.
So,
And so you're going to force all these small schools in districts where they don't have the money to hire a person.
Right.
To have a compliance director, sign me up for that job. I mean, you go in 180 days, sit in your office, and you wait for a kid to walk in and say, hey, I got a deal.
But what I'm saying is there's people intelligent enough to know that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so then that prolongs it, and then nobody gets to where they have to go.
G. Bush, what do you think?
Well, this is obvious. I mean, Ohio's one of the most conservative states in the union, right? They're not going to just jump out. I thought this was going to fail from the start, but the reality of it is, this only takes in part with high school kids playing sports, right? There's no child actor rules, right? There's no, if you come up tomorrow, and even other sports like golf, right? You can get money. Tennis, golf, all these sports where you can make money when you're 14. My premise is this, it's an undertone to it. You telling me that a 14-year-old a European female is able to handle money, but a 17-year-old inner city black kid, well, we got to protect you from your own self. What do you mean protect me from my own self? Listen, would you rather have money in your pocket and be able to do something to feed your family and not have to deal with stuff? Or would you rather be protected? We don't need protected. At the end of the day, you got to start the program somewhere. You build on it, as Maurice said, you build on it. And at the end of the day, that is what that's my God-given ability to do that. You don't get to decide what my God-given ability is to make and earn money in this world, whether you believe it's by my education later on or my athletic ability now.
Mike, what do you got?
Quick question. Are private schools exempt from this and charter schools or no?
All schools.
All schools?
Yeah,
this falls under all schools?
OHSAA member schools.
Okay. I was just curious. I just wondered if that was a way around it. You know how sometimes you have these athlete factory.
And this wasn't a pay-for-play thing. You would not have been able to, do a deal wearing a St. Ed's T-shirt.
Right.
That would have been out of bounds.
Yeah.
This was just your name, image, and likeness to monetize on that. And I think it's coming. We all agree it's coming. It has to start somewhere. I think it was sabotaged from jump by the language that it would have gone into effect today. It would have been possible today for a high school student to walk into the principal's office today and say, hey, I've got an offer to make $5,000 from a local car dealership. And the school literally would have been looking around like,
yeah,
what do we do with this? Who
Compliance director.
Yeah, and Bush, G. Bush, to your point, the language is supposed to be well intended to make sure that the kids aren't being taken advantage of. Because as we all know,
Right.
Maurice, you can speak to this, there would be victims. There would be high school kids that were taken advantage of because the system is built that way.
But you have adults who are being taken advantage of. There's many other professions and many careers of people who are getting taken advantage of in a lot of different ways. I guess what I'm saying, like when you were, I lost the point where you were talking about something, but the fact is that you have to start somewhere, and I'll leave right there because I don't want to mumble on. You have to start somewhere. You have to build onto something.
So put it in and make it good as you go on.
And what I would say is if this is really about protecting, if they don't want to do this now because they're protecting the kids because they're afraid they're going to get ripped off, well, if that's really true, then pass it. And how about the OHSAA hires a dozen guys who are lawyers to work and say, hey, whenever a kid gets a deal, you're going to look it over. We're going to pay the guy whatever, a reasonable fee.
I don't think they're in a position to add 12.
Not a percentage. And that's going to, and all that guy is going to say, he's not going to tell you whether it's, he's going to say, this is you're not getting ripped off here.
Yeah.
And just throw this out really quickly.
Yeah.
If it's about protecting people, you know how many rich, educated doctors, lawyers, financial advisors got ripped off by Bernie Madoff?
Sure.
Good point.
Yeah, there's no, like Maurice said, there are adults that need counseling.
Right. I don't think it's a bad idea, G, to have someone that you could trust give advice.
Yes.
But not at the detriment of them not being able to make money.
And we are assuming.
That's a great way to articulate it.
We are assuming that, hey, I got a mom and a dad.
Yeah.
They've been married for 40 years.
Right.
They both college educated.
Yes.
I don't need no advisor. You're assuming that certain people don't have that infrastructure
That's the
right
assumption.
now.
Yes, there is racism, I believe, baked into that assumption. I agree with you. There are kids, white and black, who need help. There are kids, white and black, who don't need help.
Well, yeah.
It's an individual thing. And I don't think it's ever bad, no matter what your race is, what your background is, whether you're rich or poor. I don't think it's bad to get advice from someone who's used to dealing with contracts when you're 16, 15, 17 years old. Sure. That's not a bad idea.
I can agree to that.
Right?
They'll fix it.
But you got to let these kids, just like you said, we got tennis players, and you got tennis players coming over, golfers coming over from South Korea. They're like 13 years old. They're making tons of money playing golf. They have, in some of those other countries, these kids don't even go to school. They just play sports.
But I'll say this, right? This thing has been on the table long enough that if Ohio wanted to prepare for it correctly, they could have.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of other states who have done it. There's collegiate programs who've done it.
Yeah.
If they really wanted to make this happen, we would say, okay, let's look at what these 6 or 7 other states are doing. But to me, when you have these like lame duck excuses, like we shouldn't even be talking about if they have compliance directors. They should have been saying, hey, it's impossible for all these school districts to hire all these people. Yeah. You can't even get bus drivers right now for schools.
Yeah, no, and you're going to hire a compliance director? Right. No, that's a great point.
Walmart, you'd be like, dang, I'm self-checkouting.
All right, we're going to talk more about the NIL on the collegiate level as it pertains to Maurice and his situation when he was in college. But right now I want to turn the table to some Browns news. Deshaun Watson is very much in the news cycle, and he's got a very busy week. Later this week, Deshaun is going to meet with NFL investigators about the pending civil cases that are hanging over his head. 22 women accusing him of sexual assault, sexual misconduct. We know that he's was not indicted by 2 different Texas grand juries. They did not recommend charges. So as you look at where we are in the timeline here, guys, and Albert Breer tweeted this yesterday, and I thought very astutely pointed out, it appears that we are close to Judgment Day, because what Albert pointed out in his tweet, and what we've seen this throughout the 15 years or so that we've had the player conduct code. In such investigations, the NFL usually talks to the player last. So this is likely an indication the league is wrapping things up. Next question would be whether or not they make a ruling before there's resolution on the 22 civil cases. And that we have no way of knowing.
Right.
But it appears, guys, that we're closer to the end of this than we are to the beginning. What are your thoughts?
I think this is huge, guys, because one way or the other, whether we think personally Deshaun Watson should be suspended or not, we don't know everything, right? I don't even know, and we've said this before. The only people that know everything are the women and Deshaun Watson. Nobody else knows for sure. But obviously the league, through a year-plus investigation, has more information than we have, right?
Absolutely.
But whatever they decide, whether he doesn't get suspended 4 games, 6 games, 8 games, whatever it is, I think we all would like it to be resolved now, and I certainly think the Browns would like it to be resolved now. So at least as we head towards the season, you can be prepared for whatever it is.
They know who to get ready for Week 1. Mike, your thoughts?
I think they're in an impossible situation. They have to act on it now because the season's on hold right now for the Browns, and if they wait until this investigation is over halfway through this year, then
Could be 2 years.
It could be 2 years by then. Here's a quote that I'm going to have a hard time, that I think we're going to have a hard time getting around. Precedent's a damn dangerous thing. And
it is.
Here's this quote. I recognize that the allegations were disputed and that they did not result in criminal charges being filed against you. My decision today is not based on a finding that you violated Georgia law or on a conclusion that differs from that of the local prosecutor. That said, you are held to a higher standard as an NFL player, and there is nothing about your conduct that can remotely be described as admirable, responsible, or consistent with either the values of the league or the expectations of our fans. And that was obviously Roger Goodell to Ben Roethlisberger back when he suspended him for his allegations.
And we saw the same thing.
And there were no criminal charges.
We saw the same thing with Elliott.
And how do you do that? How do you look at that and then say, in this situation to Deshaun Watson, you're fine?
He's going to get suspended. There's no doubt about it. Just how many games it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there's definitely something coming. Maurice, when you're waiting for a league or a body to make a decision like this, you're really in purgatory. He doesn't know if he's going to have to prepare to play for this season or not. What do you think's going through his mind as he's sitting on the sidelines trying to figure out what his fate is?
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that just going through the NCAA deal, and there's a difference between training and working out. Training, you're getting prepared for something, knowing who you're going to play, knowing when you're going to play, understanding the timing before a season, before something is about to happen, and your mentality is different. Like the training mentality in regards to accomplishing something is quite different than let me go out here, throw some footballs around. Am I preparing? Am I not preparing? I think the NFL is trying to get this over because you just don't want all of these large, embarrassing headlines, right?
Sure.
I think this is more for the brand than Deshaun Watson, or the women. I think that's the bigger thing. Like, let's get this stuff behind us. Let's move on. This is on the back of the Kaepernick stuff. This is the back. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
There's just been large headlines.
Get it out of the news cycle.
Get it out of the news cycle.
You're 100% right. That's all they care about. That's all they care about.
Yeah.
Their PR. Yeah. They don't care about the women. They don't care if Deshaun Watson did it or not. He's 100% right.
Yeah.
They only care about their
a business,
PR.
and it's run very much like a business.
So watch this. If, say for instance, they go ahead, they get them together, they bring them down here and say, okay, you know, it is what it is. We give you X amount of games. Mm-hmm. What happens is in 2023, when the civil cases come, guess who cares about them? None of us. Everybody's like, well, he already served his suspension.
I think there would be interest, but not as it pertains to Watson the player, as it pertains to Watson the person.
It would be a small footnote, and Deshaun Watson is going to do cases, and he's going to go do this.
So what will happen is you'll give him a chance to play. The Browns will win. It's sad to say this isn't my opinion, but nobody will care.
Right?
If he goes out on the field and he lights it up, and the front part of that suspension is done, if those civil cases come back guilty, he'll get a question here or there. But the national narrative will be that Cleveland is back. Cleveland is going to the playoffs. He's leading the way.
I wonder if he would get a suspension before the season starts, 4, 6, whatever the game number is, and then loses the civil cases. There's nothing that says the NFL can't come back and throw more suspension on top of it.
Is there any precedent there? Have we ever heard
not
of that?
that I'm aware of.
I think the NFL Player Association will have something to say about that because the thing about precedent is do you want double jeopardy? You can't even get that in the United States.
I think that's unlikely that would happen. I guess it's possible.
They can do whatever they want. They're a private league. We've seen they've done this before.
But I think they'd argue he's already been punished for it in their way, and I don't know. Again, we talked about this before. I think it's going to be more than I think it's likely going to be more than 4 games. I don't think it's going to be a whole season. But either way, I think for everybody, we'd all like it to just be settled.
Yeah, everybody would like to know what the field is, what the parameters are. Later in the show, we're going to do a Judge Jay segment on this question. So Baker's there. He's the elephant in the room. and Drew Brees was all indications are he's done at NBC.
Yeah.
And he sent out a really bizarre tweet yesterday that said, I don't know what I'm going to do next. I might return to football. So that's on the table. Now, he also said he might train for a pickleball league. So I think he's just throwing ghosts in the air. But we're going to debate later. If Deshaun gets 2, 4, 6, 8 games, do you want Baker or Breeze starting those games. That's a Judge J segment, so start thinking about
I
that
think Baker's
right
more
now.
like the weasel in the room than the elephant.
Yeah, well,
that's fair.
some might call him
fair.
that. All right, now let's continue on Deshaun Watson because
Yeah.
I mentioned a busy week. This weekend, guys, he's taken the offense to the Bahamas.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is nothing new. We've seen quarterbacks do this before. Baker's done it with all his skills players. But this trip is said to include about 30 folks. My friend Josina Anderson broke this news yesterday. What's really fascinating to me is, and Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com in her piece said it's unlikely that Baker Mayfield will go on this trip.
Aw.
So I've got two questions for you.
Yeah.
One, should Deshaun have invited Baker? He is a rostered member in his position room.
Yep.
Yeah.
And two, if invited, should Baker go? Who wants to start?
I'll tell you guys. First of all, you said Josina Anderson's your friend.
Yes.
Shout out to her. She doesn't
She's
get enough
tremendous.
credit. Nobody has more connections to NFL players.
Yep, she's
to the
wonderful.
players than Josina.
Players
Anderson.
like her and they
love
trust her. They
She's
trust her.
the most connected with the players, so shout out to her. Number two, first of all, I don't know if Baker was invited. I mean, if I was Deshaun, I would have invited him.
Got to. Tacky
be
not to.
polite,
Tacky
right?
not to.
And if I were Baker, as awkward as it might be, if you want to show that you've changed, and I don't believe Baker's changed,
Right.
I think he's still immature. But if you want to prove that you've changed, you go.
Yeah.
You go
Okay, Baker
like-
at
and
in
have
the
a
Bahamas,
good attitude.
That breaks the awkward meter.
It's like
it destroys the awkward.
I got
Why does it
invited.
have to?
I got invited to my ex-girlfriend's wedding.
Okay, so that's similar
Damn right I
situation.
went. Damn right I went to show. She did it. She's like,
give a
he's not.
speech?
She's like, he's not gonna come. Obviously, she's like, we got to, but I knew him for 10 years, whatever. And I'm like, I'll show up there. You damn right I will.
How'd that
And
go?
It was awkward, but it was. I would not let them. I would not let them just be like, we invited him. I don't know why he didn't come, so I came. And yes, it was awkward, but I went there to prove a point. And I think Baker should do the same thing. Personally, if he
I'm
went.
going next. Just stop
Okay.
all
Go
this
ahead.
noise.
Jump in.
Hey, watch how this works. You know when you be in college, right? You teammates with everybody.
Yeah.
But you only got a certain few people you go out with.
Yeah, I got you.
Like, hey, we go out together. I invited you. It's an unwritten thing. Just because I take snaps with you does not mean you in the camp.
Right.
You are down the street.
Yeah.
You're not in the camp.
You don't- yeah.
You don't just get up. Here, when he gonna come with his bags? Like, yeah, dog, I'm ready to go. We ready to kick it. No.
Sorry, Blake Hance.
That's not a. That's
You don't
not
get. You don't count.
This is the cool kids table. You can't.
Yeah.
You got to ask to be sat over. There's no way Baker Mayfield is going. And in your
Should Deshaun invite him?
no, that's unacceptable.
Okay, no on both. No on both.
And your ex's dude should have been like, she should have stepped to her like, listen, you think he coming to the wedding? We might not be getting married. Like, that's how you.
I agree with
Wow.
you on that
Yeah.
one.
You-
I agree
so
with
you're
you
dropping
on
the
that one.
gauntlet if you're the new husband.
Yeah,
Yep, see,
I completely agree with
talking
you.
You're right. That guy is a total puss. That's absolutely true.
All right, Maurice. So, what do you think here? Should Deshaun offer the invitation, and if so, should Baker come?
I think it's the classy thing to do. If he's going to be the leader, you can tell by the contract, right? He's the next coming, and it all depends on what Baker wants to do. Like, I think to me, Baker should realize that the end is near for him in Cleveland. As a show of class, I would have went and said, "Hey, I'm here to support the guys." But his ego, when you're that young, and you like, I tell you like this: I started coming to Cleveland probably about a year ago, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how he had permeated the area, and everybody was rooting for him, and he was the guy. And I just didn't know that Baker was like the local celebrity. So now for him to come in town, and then for all of that, for the fanfare, for everything to be shifted,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
That came unraveled at warp speed.
But it happened fast, So I can just see how Baker, like. But then he's young. Like, this is a chance to mature, knowing you'll land somewhere else. And I always think like this: whatever you're going through in the current moment is preparing you for the next moment. And it's usually the stuff that make you squirm is the stuff that develops you and makes you grow. I think like doing that, somebody else may say, you know what, we want to bring Baker into the camp, and he gets out of the like, I want to dance and be cool phase, and I want to be the cool kid. You need to mature and say, hey, I just need to be a good quarterback. I was about to cuss. I cuss a lot.
We do too, right?
And you know, Maurice, that makes good sense because his next stop, he may be a backup quarterback.
He
may not be the lead dog.
He's not going to be the fun guy who won the Heisman, coming out dancing, corralling and rallying. You're going to have to show up and be like the buttoned-up professional leader of the guys. Let's go out here and win games.
Yeah.
That's
So
my
you would
opinion.
invite him and you would
Yeah.
come.
Yeah, I look back in my life, just things that I did from being immature. And it feels good in the moment when you're being immature because you feel empowered. But like long term, it does nothing for you. It doesn't develop you. It doesn't
Totally
make
agree.
people. it doesn't make people want to get closer to you. That's the.
And he
point
said
I'm
something that was that was big.
Yeah.
The perception of people outside of Cleveland with Baker Mayfield is completely different from the bubble that we have here. So when you say mature, people here are like, what do you mean he needs to mature?
Yeah.
That's what we love for about Baker. But that's not conducive to getting a job somewhere else.
No.
And I think for Watson too, guys, I think Maurice, everything he said, I agree with. Number one, for Watson, you know, right now there's a lot of people that don't think highly of him.
Right.
I think it shows a lot of class, as you said, on his part to say, hey, I'm not going to be worried. I'm going to be good to Baker. I'm going to try to help him in a way. I'm going to give him an opportunity, especially on offense. I don't think Baker's teammates on offense hate him.
No.
There's some guys on the defense, you and I know, there's a couple of guys that he rubbed the wrong way, especially late last season. But on the offense, especially those old, they like him and respect him.
Yeah,
right?
it does ingratiate Watson to the fan base
Exactly.
to know at
It's
least
classy.
that he put the olive branch out there. Look, let it be on Baker if Baker doesn't want to go. Make him turn down the invitation.
And if Baker does go, as
there.
awkward as it might be, think about it. If you're the Panthers or you're the Buccaneers, not the Buccaneers, the Seahawks or the Giants or the Lions, you might be like, you know what? Baker's showing a little
swallowed his
maturity
pride.
here,
Swallowed his pride to win.
Swallowed his pride. He went out with the team. Maybe we will take him on.
Couple of quick follow-ups. First of all, I heard he was only taking like his offensive weapons, so apparently that means linemen don't get to go to the Bahamas.
I heard 30 offensive players.
Okay, well, maybe.
Look at Nick Chubb.
Yeah, it's pretty
He's ready to
impressive.
go. He's ready to go.
Secondly, I've got to wonder,
bad.
like, shouldn't Miles Garrett at least take the
Reflux,
shouldn't
right?
Miles Garrett at least take the defense to put in bay?
Actually, Miles
is
Garrett
taking
is
him.
taking
Is he?
the
somewhere?
So he has said that I'm going to put together a trip for the defense. I don't know
gotta-
where they're going, but I'd be all down to put
wouldn't that
that.
be
It
fun?
got to be out of the country.
Yeah,
I need
ideally.
to
Ideally.
Deshaun Watson has thrown down the gauntlet.
Yeah.
in the Bahamas.
Putting bay's international waters.
I mean,
isn't
Miles
it?
Garrett's not making Deshaun Watson money, but he's making big money.
Yeah,
And what-
he could do it.
What counts as offense? Like if I'm in on a jumbo package and I'm blocking as a D lineman, does that
Nah,
mean
you're out.
Yeah.
I
You're
can
out.
get
You
in
go
on-
both- no,
you
you're
go
both-
both ways. I get a,
Guys, can I just, my only hope on the
yeah, look at
Bahamas
that.
trip is that it doesn't lead to what this infamous trip led
Yep.
to. This was the Giants and OBJ before the playoff game, right?
Before the Packers game.
Yeah, before the Packers game. Yeah, it didn't end well.
No.
Is that
Didn't end
Trey
well.
Songz down in the left-hand corner?
Sterling Shepard.
Oh, so I thought that was Trey Songz. I said, oh, this was all bad.
Sterling Shepard hasn't been able to stay on the field since that picture.
So before we leave this, and I just want to hear your one-sentence summation of Baker Mayfield planting the Oklahoma flag in the Block O at the shoe.
Yeah, I mean, that's why he doesn't have a lot of love in Columbus.
I know.
So it's good perspective. You all said that his opinion of who he is here and who he is outside of this bubble differs. And in
Yeah.
Columbus, he doesn't have a lot of
in
friends.
Columbus, he's very much that guy. They don't forget.
Last thought before we get out of here. Thoughts and prayers. Hopefully there are no sauna and spa and massage services at that Bahamas resort. If so, I need you, Nick Chubb, to
I
put a
knew you'd be the-
closed sign.
I knew
Put a
you'd be the one
closed
to go
sign
to
on
it.
it. Just let me go.
I know.
Well, he mentioned Nick Chubb. By the way, Maurice, first of all, real quick, Nick Chubb, just watching him as a back, and did you see the squat he did the other day? We did like 650 pounds.
Yeah, he's animal.
What do you think of him as a player?
No, so I'll say this. I like him, and I've been knowing Kareem since college.
Sure.
If there was a player, I used to like Trent Richardson, and I like Nick Chubb, and I thought Nick ran more like I used to run, and he's just a tough brawler, baller, and I seen him when I was at a restaurant here. Obviously, he didn't know who I was. He walked by, and I said, "Man, they got to tackle this joker." You know what I'm saying? My man moves. He moves. He's aggressive. I love him. You know what I
Got
mean?
the total package. We know the window for a running back in the NFL is short. I just hope we use him the way he should be used. Because I think my only knock on him is that I don't think he's been properly used to the fullest extent of what he can do. I hate that he and Hunt aren't on the field at the same time ever. I think that's crazy. I'd like to see him a little more active.
So the one thing I said about when they brought Kareem over, at least it gives them some relief.
Sure, it does.
So, in some capacity.
You can spell him, but when the game is on the line, it's the biggest play. I don't want to see him on the sidelines. I
Actually,
want him
Freddie
on the
Kitchens
field.
played them together one game.
A
Do you
little
remember
bit,
that?
not much,
yes.
but
There
a
was
little
one
bit.
game, like
yeah.
about 6 or 7 plays, and it
But
really hasn't happened since.
But Kareem Hunt was like the fullback. They was like, go block him. But he did use him.
I want to see like a full house backfield with Kareem Hunt, Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb. Good luck on the team.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, good luck
Yeah,
with
no
those
kidding.
three back there.
All right, we're going to move off the Browns. We're going to talk about the Cavs because tonight is the NBA draft lottery. And obviously the Cavs, although they made the play-in round, they didn't make the actual playoffs. So they are in the draft lottery. And if the ping pong balls hold, they will be the 14th pick. They've got a very, very small chance, a 0.5% chance of getting the first pick. They're almost a lock for the 14th pick based on how many ping pong balls are in there and when they're supposed to pick. So the Cavs are sending Anderson Varejao as their representative. A team has to pick someone to go everywhere. I think that's a great pick.
Yeah.
I love Varejao. He played like his hair was on fire.
He's like an extra mascot.
He really is. Mascot.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. But what are our realistic expectations? Let's just say the Cavs land where they're supposed to in the 14th pick. You don't usually find guys that change your life in the NBA at number 14.
No.
You got to get lucky to some degree.
This is why I was upset down the stretch they didn't make the playoffs. Because now, like the alternatives, but hey, we get the 14th pick. You're like, all right, man. They got some guys that can possibly make the squad. Maybe some guys that'll go back between the G League up and call them back up. But it's very difficult to find somebody at 14 that's going to be a playmaker. And by the way, the Cavs have great talent. So, if you draft the best available player and he plays power forward, good luck.
This isn't like the old school Cavs that were whoever they drafted, they were going to make the team because they didn't have enough players as it was.
That's the guy I want right there is Ochai Agbaji out of Kansas.
Yeah.
He can shoot like nobody's business. He can stretch out the floor, and that's exactly what they need. They need an outside shooter.
See,
to
I
complement
love him
everybody.
too. I just don't think he's going to be around at 14.
I think
was
you're probably
surprised
right.
he was on this mock.
Let's trade the pick to DeJounte Murray, baby. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Let's go.
Yeah,
I
trade
want
the
a proven
pick
player.
and a lot of other pieces.
Yeah, whatever. DeJounte Murray is an all-star caliber player. I want him here.
So I looked it up. The last 3 drafts, the Cavs obviously had impact guys because they had high picks.
Right.
In 19, they got Darius Garland at 3. In 18, they got Colin Sexton with the 8. Evan Mobley last year was the 3 pick.
Yep.
And Isaac Okoro was the 5 in 2020. But I also
ignore
looked,
Dylan
guys.
Windler there.
Yeah, I know. Well, he was a late
He's
first
used
rounder
to it.
because they had 2 picks
Yeah.
in that draft in the first round. But what I did was I went back and looked at the last 3 number 14 overall picks in the NBA. And this is to my point that guys usually don't change lives in that 14 slot. Moses Moody was the
One of my
14th pick
all-time
last
favorites.
year.
Yeah, huge Moody
Golden
head.
State
Love that
Warriors. He actually spent time in the G League this year. 2
There you
years
go.
ago,
There you go.
Aaron Nesmith from the Celts.
The Smith. Yep.
Not changing anybody's life. And 3 years ago, number 14, Romeo Langford to the Celtics.
Langford,
He's now,
man.
I think he's now on the Spurs. He was traded. But so the draft now, when you're a middle of the road team like the Cavs were, it's tough to build through the draft. So maybe they make some trades and try to sign a free agent or something.
Isaac Okoro went 5th, but that's not anything after the top 3 to 4.
a
You
guess.
start getting to 7 or 8.
Yeah,
Some years it's a little
they
longer,
got
but
Sexton
yeah.
at 8 a couple of years ago, and that's a great pick.
He's a good player.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good player.
So-
They did a good job with those picks, except for Windler, but that's a late first round.
It's still
pick.
pretty exciting that we are even still in the lottery considering the
Right.
season they had last year. And we're, like you said, we're used to picking usually like 6th or 3rd or whatever because we've been so terrible. It's kind of nice having a good team this year that still gets a decent draft pick. It's very rare.
And in early or really late January, early February, the Cavs were just a couple of games out of the 1 spot
Yep.
in the East.
They were playing great.
hurt.
The
So
injuries killed them.
if someone would have told me then that the Cavs are going to be a lottery pick, I would have
Yep.
said, no way.
Right, because if they had made the playoffs, they would have lost their pick as part of that trade.
They would have lost their pick.
Right.
Yeah.
Maurice, you a big basketball fan or no?
Yeah, no. So I got closer to basketball, and I was telling you I go up to UConn a lot. And what I was about to say was that it's surprising that these guys can pick anybody because all these kids are 6'7", between 6'7" and 6'11". They all can jump. They all can shoot. And this is just playing back and forth. And I remember I was up at UConn, and I said, man, they got 4 starters on their bench. And so I don't know as a scout, how do you choose to that? Like,
It's tough.
In football, it's easy to kind of see the separation of guys.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you walk into a gym, I can give you 3-4 guys on UConn. If they had the ability or had the chance or had the system, they can go be a superstar somewhere. But basketball, you only have 1 basketball. And,
Guys
I
fall
go to-
through the cracks in
I could go to
basketball.
Rucker Park in New York and see guys I think could play in the
Yeah,
NBA.
well, just about any day of the week,
Yeah.
too.
But it's a good point, though. It's a good point.
It'd be
Mike,
hard.
do we have time to do the Kyrie Irving stuff here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so as long as we're talking Cavs,
Yeah.
Kyrie Irving came out and had some really interesting comments that floored me, to
Stunning.
be perfectly honest
Yeah.
with you, because I've seen almost no maturity out of this guy throughout
Right.
his NBA career, even going back to his small time at Duke. He came out and basically said, It's on me that we didn't win more championships with the Cavs. I was immature. I forced the breakup. It was a mistake. Basically saying that he and LeBron had so much more to do together, and that it was his immaturity that, in his mind, he felt he was the center of the wheel, when in reality now he understands that it was LeBron and that it was a huge mistake. I was floored by those comments. I thought it showed maturity on Kyrie's part, and I also just did not expect that from him.
Maturity we could have used back in the day. It's so nice that in retrospect he's being mature.
Yeah.
And also, how was he ever under the impression he's a great player? How is he on a team with LeBron and he was under the impression that he was the center of the universe?
Because
That is amazing.
Because he
That is
outplayed Steph
amazing.
Curry for the 7 games.
Yeah,
and
but-
Steph was widely looked at as the guy in the league.
Yeah, but this is after LeBron took a team to the finals that had Donyell Marshall and Eric
Yeah, right.
Snow on
He
it.
was in 4th grade then.
But do
exactly.
You know the saying, long live the king, the king's dead, I'm the new king.
Yeah.
Right. You're the king, and
realizes
everybody
he's not.
wants to be the king.
Yeah, right.
And when you hit a shot like that, and for me, what I recognized was that the Kyrie was a dude, is when they gave him a Nike, like the signature line, there's not very many. It's LeBron, Kobe, there's a couple of people. KD. You got to be the top of the food chain to get you a signature shoe. And he hit the shot against Golden State and won the shot. He felt like, look, you was here all them years ago, 10 years. LeBron, you didn't win nothing in Cleveland. I hit the shot. I'm the man now.
The shot probably had a lot to do with it, Mike.
But you got to remember, he was playing before LeBron had came back.
Right.
And he was. And
He helped start the turnaround.
So I think that played a major role in it, and he probably felt like you need a guy like me, or you needed other pieces, and so he probably didn't think he was the guy, but he probably thought like he had as much as a presence to their winning as LeBron did.
Sure.
But like once again, though, I talk about self-awareness. Like self-awareness helps you to mature. Then it's only through growth that you start to realize what role you played in it, and I think that's what happened with him.
Yeah, I want to come back to you on that in a second. But Bull, what are your thoughts?
I guess in the end, we should, even though I was as shocked as you were, I'm thinking about it now, maybe we shouldn't be shocked. Because Kyrie's always been an enigma in a way, right? Like he'll say something that you're like, wow, that's really smart. That's like a really
Profound,
interesting thing,
yeah.
profound thing. And then 2 minutes later, he'll say something you're like,
The earth is
that's
flat.
the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And he has done that his whole career.
He might change his mind and path on this too. I could see him going back and being like, you know what, it wasn't my fault. I changed my mind. And also, if you keep sailing on a Carnival cruise line, you will go off the side of the earth eventually because the world is not round.
In the end, guys, it's a shame. Because when Kyrie was here, I loved Kyrie.
I did
He was
too.
my favorite player. I liked him more than LeBron. I know LeBron's better, but Kyrie was my favorite player. I loved watching
He's
him
smooth.
play. His ball handling skills are as good as
superior.
almost any player in the history of the game. It's
insane.
And if he had stayed healthy and stayed more
Insane.
focused or whatever the word is, he should have been. I mean, maybe he will be a Hall of Fame. The Basketball Hall of Fame is. I have no idea.
He's already Hall of Fame.
Everybody
I
gets
guess.
into that.
I guess he is. But like he should have. Overall, when we look back at his career, I think we're going to say he was really good, but he should have been better.
And Maurice, you know this. When you, as a player, come to grips with your mortality is not when you like die as a person. It's when you feel like my playing career is over. That's your mortality. When you start to, Kyrie's had a lot of injuries, and he realizes that, you know, hey, I just lost in the first round. When you start to see you getting up there, KD is getting up there, when you start to see your own mortality, you start to then come to conclusions like, well, wow, let me reflect on what I did have or what happened, because I could
And you start thinking about legacy. too.
Yes, that you do. 30 years old.
Yeah.
His legacy's troubled.
Yes, because he's right now. If he's looking at James Harden, he said, "Man, Harden looked bad, but hey, look, what about me? Like, don't I look crazy?" And so he's got to be thinking about, wow, how many could I have won? I was the Cavs did take me number one. I was the rookie of the year. I hit the biggest shot, and I left because I even got the most shots when LeBron was here. He averaged the most shots since last year.
Yep.
He has to be thinking about it like, wow, life was all easier.
Round
I'm
the
back
horn
to
quick. Would you want him back in
No.
Cleveland? Mike?
Yeah, I take.
Maurice?
Every day.
Trade him for Sexton.
Look, LeBron had 2 stints here. I like the maturity. I'd take him back too. Because you ultimately, at the end of the day, all sports teams ask this question. The Browns just asked it with Watson. Are we better with him, with the baggage, or without him? Well, we're better with him. So they
Take
took him.
DeJounte Murray instead.
And
I'm not getting off that
He
train.
doesn't have to get vaccinated either, right? He's good,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. As long as he's reflecting in 10 years, will he look back and say, "I should have gotten vaccinated. I was just being a pissy little."
hopefully he's already
Madonna."
learned that.
Yeah, I mean,
would think.
look at
I doubt
how
that.
much better would his numbers be, even though, like, you're talking about legacy. What if he had played a whole season here? He was completely healthy sitting on a bench in one of his 10 possible years that you can play at that level in the
Yeah,
NBA, and
I
he's
know,
just
it's
like,
a
no, I don't want to. I don't believe in science.
It's a short window. It's a short
And
window.
he's going to regret that.
You shouldn't.
No doubt.
You shouldn't leave any games on the table
Yeah.
because you don't know how many you have for your career. Want to do Reds Indians or
We're
Reds
gonna do
Guardians?
Reds
here?
Guardians. We got
Jeez, I
3
said it
minutes. We
again.
got to hit break. So.
Okay, so we'll go 3 minutes, then we're going to hit break, then we're going to go dive deep into Maurice's story. Guardians back home. They get the Reds again. They're 2-0 against the Reds this year.
Yeah.
Plezak's going for the Guardians. I don't know what he is. I used to. I don't know what he is anymore. The Reds are throwing an interesting pitcher. Connor Overton, who's been okay this year. I think he's pitched 15 or 20 innings, something like
Yeah.
that. He's been okay. Do the Guardians just continue their domination over the Reds? This has been going on for a couple of years here, but I
Yeah.
don't know about Plezak. I don't know if I trust him.
I don't trust Plesac. Connor Overton's a fraud. He's not a major league pitcher. So those,
Wow.
those numbers,
Wow.
Those numbers won't hold up. He's only got 8 strikeouts in 17 innings. He's not missing any bats. They've just gotten lucky with him so far. The Reds are so bad that they lost a game this weekend
Sunday,
where
yeah.
they gave up no hits.
Yeah.
Their team pitched a no-hitter
Wow.
and they lost
Yep.
to the Pirates, who suck too. So that's how bad the Reds are.
Yeah.
You're not learning anything here. If Plesac can't, I mean, listen, we already got to send down Savali, which they should. I don't know why they haven't. Plesac has not been very good. He also, going back to the middle last year, has been very inconsistent. He should dominate against Cincinnati. There's no excuse.
I would
not
hope.
to.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Just real quick, I just think everybody should go to the ballpark this weekend. It's supposed to be nice, and you're playing a crappy team, so get out there and support
Yeah,
the
go
Guardians.
out when you think you're going to get a win.
Yeah,
You know?
have fun.
Yeah, Reds, listen, you guys don't get the NBA draft format. If you lose every game, you don't get ping pong balls. It does not matter. I don't know, they're doing this for like draft status or, listen, you guys are terrible. But here's the problem. We've now talked about 2 out of the 3 major people in the rotation, and Bull has talked about sitting them down. That's how bad
No, I'm not
people
saying
pitch.
send down Plesac. I'm concerned he's not pitching
Well,
well.
well,
I'm not sending him down.
But 2 out of the 3,
Yeah.
and you could say Bieber's not pitching particularly well. at this
Bieber
point.
looks better.
Better
Yeah.
last
Bieber
start.
looks
Yes.
better last start.
But, yeah,
and McKenzie looks great.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all agree on that, and he's not going anywhere. But the Guardians have to figure out their starting pitching, no doubt. All right, we're going to take our first break on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. When we come back, we're diving deep into Maurice Clarett's story. Nothing's off the table. We're going to talk about all of it, from high school to college to his brief time in the NFL and everything that happened afterwards. Stay with us. It's going to get good.
See, no, Nick, man.
Hi, my name is Jay Crawford. I'm a lifelong Cleveland sports fan. My favorite all-time Cleveland sports moment, you're not going to believe this, it was Rajay Davis's home run in Game 7 that tied the score.
My favorite Cleveland sports moment would have to be the Kyrie Irving 2016 shot. It's the only time that I've ever cried over any sporting event.
And my ultimate Cleveland memory is when the Cavs won the championship and the day of the parade. It was one of the greatest experiences I've ever had in my life.
What matters most to me is family. Sometimes you don't realize how important it is until you're away from them.
What matters most to Jay? His family. He is a big family man. What matters most to me? My family, my safety, your safety.
I think the thing that most impresses me about Betsy is her versatility. Give her any assignment that involves going in front of a television camera, and she's going to knock it out of the park.
What's new with Betsy and Jay? Weekdays at 5 on 3. Recognize that feeling? It is the feeling of being together, enjoying the company of a familiar face, and sharing moments that matter to you, to me, to us. What matters to some could impact all of us, especially in a place like Northeast Ohio. Here, stories are shared from east to west to south. Stories of perseverance, of family, of love. If a story brings us together, it's what matters most.
Hi, my name is Jay Crawford. I am a lifelong Cleveland sports fan. I have carried my fandom every city I've ever lived in. People have always asked me, why are you so diehard about Cleveland? It's because I'm from here. and we know how much our teams mean to us. Most of us know that because of our parents. In my case, my father was just a huge Cleveland sports fan. It was really part of our life. It was woven into everything we did, and it was our connection throughout his life. All right, we're back on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. We're joined by former Ohio State running back Maurice Clarett. And Maurice, I want to thank you, first of all, for coming in, being so open about your story and sharing your story. We all remember the 30 for 30 on ESPN, which really sort of put the spotlight on your story and everything that you've been through. But for those that haven't seen that, I want to go back and start from the very beginning. At Warren G. Harding High School, you were the Offensive Player of the Year by the USA Today and an Ohio State commit. What was life like for Maurice Clarett, the high school football player?
Oh, high school football in regards to high school football, it was fun. We had a great coach. My last 2 years, first coach was Gary Barber, and the last 2 years was Tom McDaniels. Had learned a ton just about the game in my last 2 years, the last 24 months, and position coaches Matt Richardson, Dan Reardon, just the preparation, the traveling to different camps, the guys I played with, practices being very competitive, and just really preparing for the next level. But overall, it was just fun. We won a bunch. We lost to St. Ignatius the round right before my senior. Right before I went to college, and that kind of spoiled it. I thought we were going to win the championship, but we lost to St. Ignatius. But overall, high school was a phenomenal time, and just like every other kid, you're just happy to go through the high school experience and then eventually go off to college.
Were you always bound for Ohio State because of Tressel and the Youngstown tie? Or?
Yeah, no. So actually, I wasn't. I wasn't even recruited by Ohio State. So Ohio State has signed 3 running backs the year prior to me coming: Lydell Ross, Jaja Riley, and Maurice Hall. And for me, it just wasn't even a possibility of going. And so I really wanted to go to Notre Dame. And Urban Meyer was the offensive coordinator or an offensive assistant at Notre Dame. And what ended up happening was that Urban Meyer and Bob Davie got fired. So I was already set and slotted, ready to go to Notre Dame. And there was a guy by the name of Rex Hogan who was like the player personnel guy. And what happened was I was like, hey, man, I had such a good year my junior year that I actually wanted to leave high school early. This is where the whole graduating early thing came from. So I wanted to turn this out, take some out here. It was bothering me. What actually happened was this. I was slotted and ready to go to Notre Dame. Rex Hogan had helped me to graduate early. So I wanted to be done after my junior year because I was like, there's nothing else for me to accomplish. I came back in like 5 games, had like 1,200 yards. I was squatting like 800 pounds, bench pressing 440, hang cleaning 350. I was like a very strong kid. And so I was ready just to move on. And so I didn't have an English credit. And so Rex Hogan, he's with the Jets now. He's the one who said, hey, you have to get your English credit in order for you to graduate. He said, you can't come this year, but you can leave in January. This is where all this January graduating comes from. So then at this point, when they got fired, Urban went to Bowling Green. And so I said, hey, I'm not going to Bowling Green. I don't know where to go. And Tressel was down at Ohio State. So Tressel had came in the spring, and I was like, hey, I'm going to come to Ohio State. And he kind of just blew it off. But this was going into my senior year. And so then after like the first handful of games, I had a bunch of success my senior year. Then they called me back up and was like, yo, you serious? I was like, yeah,
To corroborate his story, his head coach, Tom McDaniels, was my head coach.
Right.
And we had won a state championship in 1997, and then we wanted to get in 98.
Yep.
We played, he probably don't even remember, we played against him and Warren Harding. And so we go up to Warren Harding, and I was like, I'm looking around, I'm like, hey, who's this kid with this number 5 jersey? He's a sophomore at the time. And I remember telling Antonio, we playing defense. We ended up winning this game.
Yep.
And we had to get in the playoffs to win. We actually lost to Maslin and Ignatius because all public schools have a hard time beating Ignatius, right? But I said to myself, like, this kid is a monster. This guy,
as a sophomore.
He's a sophomore. The next year, Tom McDaniels comes out of retirement because he had retired. Tom McDaniels comes out of retirement, goes to Warren Harding, and I had saw Ben McDaniels, and I said, hey, man, he has that kid that from Warren, and he said, yeah, he's going to, and I knew Tom McDaniel was going to put him on a program, like running and regimen and all this other, and he came back the next year when my brother was playing, and I think he had like 250 yards in Foster Stadium. It was ridiculous.
No,
it was crazy.
No, to his point, Tom McDaniels and Matt Richardson really changed my life. And you talk about the impact of coaches. And so Tom, my junior year, set me down, and he said, hey, you're good, but you're not as good as you can be. And I think for like me, that was like shocking because, when you're good, you don't want somebody to tell you that like you have to improve. Like most people just can't take it. And so I remember he made me read a book. It was a book that Joe Paterno had wrote, but I think the main point was about preparation and how you prepare for a season. So he would sit me down and he would break down quarterback film to me as a running back. And he started teaching me concepts and alignment with defense and tendencies and understanding why do we check in and out of plays and why are the first 15 plays scripted. And as a high schooler, I was learning this, right? And so then Matt Richardson, he had basically played for Trussell. He was the one who taught me how to practice. This is how you practice. This is the pace of practice. This is the reason you're out here first. This is the reason that you're first at the average drill. This is the reason why when you break through the line, you run for 60, 70 yards.
Were you open to that education?
Yeah, so I was just understanding that it gave me confidence. So like when you're younger, you don't know how to build confidence. Like you just, you listen to music and guys get hype and they think that's confidence. That's not like where confidence comes from, right?
Right.
Confidence comes from a ton of preparation, right? And what ended up happening was those guys helping me to practice the games became easier. I could start to feel it. And so Tom and Coach Richardson really, instead of just like, hey man, here's a play on the board, they gave rhyme and reason. And this is why you deadlift. This is why you squat. You hang clean to break tackles. You stiff arm to keep people off your body. You use your arms to keep the blunder to work off your shoulder. When you're lining up, these are the people that you see. This is what cover 3 is for. This is what cover 2. This is the corner support. So you start to see stuff. And in high school as a running back, I'm checking in and out of plays. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
First half, this is why you run at people. Second half, now you can run away from them because they don't want to tackle you anymore. And so I just understood that you don't have kids my age preparing like this, right? So then when I call Coach Trussell, all of those experiences are, when I say, hey, I'm coming to your school, I'm saying that I can look on TV and see that your guys aren't prepared. You know where I'm coming from? So I can just see, like if you've been doing journalism forever, if I sat here, just through watching me, you'll say, okay, you don't have this, you don't have that. You can just kind of read it. So I can see somebody run on TV and just say, okay, I can tell what you have been taught and what you haven't been taught. I can tell if you went on Instagram and see guys doing drills, that's cool, but you don't understand the game. Like that's not how you break down the running back.
It's kind of uncommon for young high school athletes to be that much of a student of the game, isn't it?
But just so you can say you become. I was interested in learning. It all like whatever you want to be good at. If you become interested in learning it, you're going to absorb it. And so I was absorbing all of those teachings, and that's kind of what got me to a different level. That was the reason I said I want to graduate early because the way they had prepared me. And then I was serious about the weight room and you just don't get up and squat a bunch of pounds. There's just a bunch of things that you go through to get to that level. So I was serious, I was focused, and I wanted to get ahead. I wanted to go to college. And then eventually what happened was that we played Ignatius, we lost. I went down to the All-American game down in Texas. And then what ended up happening was I came to Ohio State that January, and that's how I landed at Ohio State.
Maurice, when you go to Ohio State, we know about what happened on the field. Obviously, you're great. What was that adjustment like for you from high school to college as a human being, as a person, adjusting to being in Columbus, living in the dorms, meeting new people? What was that part like for you?
It was actually it felt like I was moving backwards because I had moved out of my mother's house at 16. So I was living on my own 17, 18. So going to college and going into a dorm, that was a lot for me because of having to be like a kid again. If that's
rules.
More right. Rules, just the dorm life, that wasn't good for me, right? But socially, I just didn't talk to a lot of people. I was one of those personalities, or I still am, that if I'm focused on something or I want to do something, I'm just interested in my work. I don't have, I'm not real good socially. You know what I'm saying? Not like I'm socially awkward. I'm just not interested in things I'm not interested in, right? Yeah. So the partying, the hanging, I'm just, man, I want to play football. I want to lift weights, and I want to try to achieve something.
So there was no partying for you?
Yeah, no, not at this point. There was nothing.
But the stardom came so quick.
Yes.
Because in Ohio, everybody knew who you were.
Yeah.
but you became a national name early in your freshman season with some of the things that you did. How were you dealing with that, with the fame of being a public person on a national level?
Yeah, so it was different. And I think it came from the concept. So just think about, you have to put context around everything. And the biggest thing I can name is that how much culture influenced what I thought I should be doing, right? So I never knew that I would have that success that early. Like, I was confident that I would have some success, but like after the first game, I did like 175 yards and 4 touchdowns, right? 3 touchdowns. So after the game, and I used to be like a hermit. Like, I would just basically be like focused on doing my work, going back to the door, or going back to the apartment, doing my work, going back to the apartment. So what happened was, after the first game, like I remember we went through, you do your post-game interviews, and then you come back, and then people sit down and talk to you, and then you leave from there, you go out the gate, and then it's all these kids waiting for autographs and stuff. So this is what I believe changed my life in Columbus. After that game, I had a bunch of people from my hometown come to the game. And they was like, yo, what are you doing after the game? And so I'm thinking to myself, like, going home, but they was like, man, let's go out to the nightclub. So then once I went to the nightclub, then once I pull up to the club, and then you tell the bouncer, oh, this is Maurice Clarett we're with. Then you go through the back door, and you come in the champagne and this beer, and everybody, you can see how people look at you. I went from Joe Blow, person playing football, to I can see when you look at me and think I'm a celebrity, right?
Sure.
And so then now, I'm not like the ugly guy, but I'm not like the most handsome in the world, right? So you know,
Come on.
You know, like,
Don't sell yourself short.
I'll prepare myself nice before I go out, but I'm not like the main attraction, right? But I can see, you know, women who look at you like, oh, you're attractive now. And so all these vain things and, you know, the shallow sex and all this other stuff, you're a kid, you're 18, 19 years old. Like,
Sounds awful.
yeah, it sounds awful.
I mean, when you get when the game changed, like
Yes.
when you Washington State, I remember like it was yesterday. Brett Musburger's calling the game. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like, man, he got 20. That's 30. By the time he got on Washington State game, I said, oh yeah, this is he's a made guy in Columbus. He's that guy.
I mean, but that's
And who's ready for that at any
Nobody.
age? But when you're new to the environment, did you almost resent that people looked at you that way, or did you just take advantage of it and roll with it?
But I think the point I was making was that I was doing what I thought you were supposed to do when you're successful. I'm thinking like you're supposed to have sex with a bunch of women. You're supposed to be that guy. You're supposed to be as important, right? I'll tell you, like it's for ego and it's euphoric, right? You have 100,000 people screaming your name. I don't care when you're 18. There's just a place that you go to mentally to think you own the place. You know what I mean? When you break tackles and people cheer for you, think you own the place. Back in the day, you was going to Walgreens and Rite Aid and you see your magazine, face with your magazine on it. It becomes a part of you. You go to class and, you know, you're not just a regular student anymore. You're the guy. You know what I'm saying? So,
What kind of guidance, if any, what infrastructure was in place at Ohio State for the coaches and mentors to sort of deal with that?
So Coach Trussell was there, but I didn't care. Like I was like, yo, like I'm not hearing what you're talking about. Like I'm having sex, I'm having fun. I don't go to class. I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is perform on the field. So you sort of lose the humility of somebody teaching you.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So he was teaching me and guiding me. Then I got to the point where I had the success that I wanted. And then it comes to a point, and this is what happens, right? Just like LeBron in Cleveland, I could just name that, right? So it comes to a point where I do so much on the court that the owner can't keep me off the court, and the fans want me. The fans make the team. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I did so much on the field as an 18-year-old kid that I knew that you can't keep me on the sideline. So you're holding the business against the coach. So where you can't do anything or you can't influence me, and as long as I keep performing, you'll put up with all this other stuff that I have going on. And when you're a kid, you just don't think that you're going to, like, you don't think the train's going to stop. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'll keep on playing. They'll keep on putting up with this. And it wasn't like I was doing anything malicious. I just wasn't, like, going to class. And I was just doing the things that I thought, like, when you're a superstar and you can take advantage of the system, that's what I was doing. So, like, that's what became a distraction to me. I fell into all the off-the-field stuff.
How did your teammates react to that? Was there jealousy? Because at Ohio State, it feels like everybody's a star to some degree. You're Ohio State, but everybody's a star here. You were a star here. So how did that go?
No, because I've always been respectful to my teammates. And when I go out, I was going out with younger guys who came up to end up being stars, and I was inclusive with them. And then for a lot of guys, Ohio State wasn't like this illustrious program like it is now. This was 7-5, 8-8, like Outback Bowl, like Blockbuster Bowl, stuff like that. And I'm just being honest with you, you'll see me throw a couple of jabs because I never let them forget. Sometimes they'll try to don't forget, y'all were just mediocre at one point, you know what I mean? And then we came back and we reestablished the brand. So the guys who hadn't won, they appreciated that we were winning, and the guys who were like, hey, this is my last hurrah, this guy helps us to do it. So with my teammates, they love me because I worked hard and I was fearless, right? And so when you're fearless, you get this spirit that you can arouse in other people, man, okay, we can go do this. I give you a prime example. We was getting ready to play this to Miami when we were out in Scottsdale. And when I remember seeing them in the mall, and I remember we had a guy, and he was fanboying over him. And he was an older guy. He was a junior at the time. And I kind of checked him man, forget them. They're the same as us. Yeah. My words are a little bit different, but you can tell, respect to me, right?
I'm sure they were very different.
Yeah. But there was other guys who you'll be younger and guys won't say you influence them that way, but you can see the impact you have on people where you we ready to go and we're in the game. And so guys knew that they can count on me. So I didn't have this internal jealousy of if anybody who comes from that team, they'll never say anything bad about me while I was a teammate because I just, I was the first to show up. I was the last to leave. I was always in the weight room. I broke all the records. I was pushing the sleds. I'm conditioning. I practice real hard. So from an athlete standpoint, from a physical standpoint, I handled my business and I was good to the guys around me.
My man Dustin Fox texted me, said, say hello to Maurice.
That's my guy.
He loved you as a teammate.
As you're going through this process and you're doing your thing, you're winning, you got all the girls, you're the big man on campus, you're doing your thing. If you look back, at what point do you think any addiction settled in as far as your personality, right? I'm a person who has an addictive person. I'm either hot or cold, right? I'm on it. If I'm doing it all 100% to do it, I'm doing it. I'm going. At what point do you look back and you say, did you have an addiction to the fame, addiction to addiction to alcohol? Do you think any of that set in during that time, those first years at Ohio State?
Well, I think that starts in just falling in love with anything. I think you're talking about two different things. Being hyper-focused and addictive to completing the task of becoming the best football player, I think that started connecting with McDaniels and my high school coaches. The part that I think you're referring to is that if you fast forward the tape, when I get kicked out of school. So when I get kicked out of school and the partying used to be this mechanism of getting girls and hanging out and being one of the guys, that shifted from this is my safe haven because I don't want to deal with all of what's going on. You know where I'm coming from?
Your escape.
Yeah, so it's a difference if I say hey man, we just had a great set and blah, 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 let's go out and party. That's a different mentality, going to celebrate, hang out and do that, rather than, man, I'm having a hard day. I don't want to deal with my issues and it's easy for me to smoke, it's easy for me to drink, or it's easy for me to pop a pill and I don't have to do it, right? But the so that's the reasoning behind that, but the personality is that whatever I do, be it good or bad, I do it to the fullest, right?
In excess sometimes.
But with everything, you know what I'm saying?
No, and I think that's people with addictive personalities tend to do things to excess, whether it is work ethic or any sort of addictions they may have to chemicals or whatever the case may be. Before we move on from your Ohio State, at the end, so you're Big Ten Freshman of the Year, you score the game-winning touchdown in double overtime of the national championship game. You are literally on cloud 9. But everything's about to come unraveled the following September before your sophomore season. Take us through what happened and how it all came apart.
Yeah, so you would have to end the Ohio State year. So Ohio State was ending, and I ended up having an issue at the national championship with wanting to go home for my funeral. This is where everything starts, to be honest with you, right?
Yep.
So I wanted to go home.
Just context, you had a friend that was...
He was shot and killed.
He was shot and killed, and you wanted to go home for the funeral and then get back to the national championship game.
Yes. Ohio State hadn't been to the championship since '68, and so Ohio State didn't want to be linked with a drug deal going bad and our star players going to this funeral for this murder. And at 18, you just don't have context for Like, what do you mean? Y'all came and got me out the ghetto. Y'all know I come from all this stuff. Like, why is it a bad thing now? Like, this is what I come from. I came from the juvenile system. I came from getting arrested. This is part of my life. Like, when y'all came and recruited me, like, where do you think you came? This is part of the people who I have around me at this moment in my life, right? So you fast forward through there, and we had an interview after this happened. So this happened on a Tuesday or Wednesday. They told me I couldn't go. They told me I could go to the funeral. I didn't go to the funeral, and this is media day. So just put all this to context. And they said, Maurice, like, why aren't you happy to be here? And I just was like, man, like, they don't care about me. Like, I want to go to a friend's funeral. The athletic director lied to me. The compliance director lied to me. I didn't understand that was offensive. You have to figure, when we talk about culture and context, I come from the hood. If a grown man is a liar, he's a liar. You can just call somebody whatever they are, and you don't have parameters or punishments, or you don't understand hierarchy. It's just,
you didn't want to play their PR game.
I didn't even know the PR game. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like, I'm just saying, bro, like, you told me something was going to happen, it didn't happen, you lied to me. I didn't understand all that. And so he had a hard on for me. So we go through the spring. I'm using a car. The car gets broken into. I'm using the car because my transmission went bad in my car. I go get a car from a dealership. The guy at the dealership had bought a car from the auction. It was a two-door Monte Carlo. I go drive. I skip class, drive to work out. I'm working out. The secretary comes and says, "Who's driving the Monte Carlo outside?" I lie to her and say, "I don't know." Well, she says, "Whoever it is broken into." And at this point, I said, "Oh, wow." I didn't say that, but I said, "Oh, wow." I went out to the car. The car is broken into. At this time, you have these real book. You remember those CD cases?
Oh,
you
yeah.
have like 300-400 CDs. This wasn't my stuff. This was stuff that was in the car that they had repossessed from somebody. If somebody stole the speakers out the trunk and they stole all the items out the car, this wasn't my car. This was a car used from the dealership. So I called Coach Trussell. Coach Trussell says, file a police report. When they come to me and I filed a police report, I'm just explaining what was in the car to the officer, right? All this stuff takes in context. So fast forward right before the season, they say you have an NCAA investigation. I'm thinking to myself, like, big deal, like, no big problem. So when I come to the investigation, let me rewind a little bit. After winning the championship, I was with Jim Brown, Don King, LeBron, Dominic, the gym is Dominic Marciano, I always mess her name up, and we had a Cleveland Sports Award banquet.
Sure.
Jim Brown says, "Hey, if anything ever happens that you get into that you can't figure out, call me." I remember that from the winter, whenever they do these sports award. So I go to this. I go to the beginning of the NCAA investigation, and they're asking me all these questions, and obviously I'm just lying just to get through it. And I'm thinking like, oh man, they'll give me like a game or two, like I'll be good. And so I didn't realize whatever they were asking me from 8 to 12, they were going to investigate from like 12:30 to like 8. And then they came back the next day and asked me. Then they came back the next day and asked me. And that's how the whole thing happened. And so it got to a point they were getting frustrated because I just kept lying to them, right? And so I was like, all right, at some point the school's going to step in and protect me. So in the process, I said, man, you know what? This thing doesn't seem favorable to me. Let me call Jim Brown and let me call lawyers in, like, to kind of help me out, because like my school isn't protecting me. My school's kind of like feeding me.
You weren't sure if they were on your side or the NCAA
No, it was,
side?
it was
you
clear.
didn't have anybody with you at that point? There was no...
At the start of it.
That's crazy to me.
So the pictures you see are days after when lawyers came in, Alan Milstein, Scott
But in the beginning, you were on your own.
Yeah, because I didn't take it that serious.
19, you were 19, right?
But you don't take it that serious.
But how did the university let you go into that on your own?
Let me tell you this. This is on record. So the university was already being investigated from an infraction from Jim O'Brien.
Right.
So Jim O'Brien and Andy Geiger were real good friends, and he knew that a punishment was coming. So Jim O'Brien had gave $7,500 for a kid to move from Serbia over here. Mm-hmm. He knew that they were basically going to get investigated. You can look all this stuff up. Look at the timeline. Investigate. I don't care what you do. You can't disprove me on this. Jim O'Brien, your friend, you told him to go retire. We'll feed Maurice Clarett, who basically told us we were liars. So at this point, you made $88 million in 4 months. You have the brand back. You have 17 starters. This is my way to give this back to you, right? And so I just knew it. That's why when the whole Jim Brown thing came in, the Scott Schiff came in, it was like, I thought you were already going to help him. Here's another thing, right? So the NCAA. So do you all know how this works? You have to suggest a penalty to them.
Right. The university does.
Yeah. So the NCAA, the NCAA they don't give you a penalty. They say, hey, you do a self-assessment.
Well, you give the recommendation, and then the NCAA makes a ruling.
Yes. So the NCAA was like, yo, we were cool with 3 games. The school suspended me indefinitely. So they, you feel where I'm coming
I
from?
didn't realize that.
And you feel that was retribution from you going public at the national championship game,
So why would you suspend your star player indefinitely?
particularly when
Makes no sense.
no.
Why?
Because they're angry.
So it's angry.
But in your mind, it was retribution.
When you were right
for
in the
you
first
coming
place.
out publicly.
He should have been allowed to go. His friend gets killed. I mean, you
So-
got.
Yeah, they miss. I think they would even admit now they
Jeez.
totally mishandled that.
So-
They misread the situation.
So you spin this up. So then they say, okay, we're not letting you back at the school. We're not letting you take the classes you take. You have to get a 3.0 GPA. You can't use any of our resources. You can't use any of our tutors. We cut your scholarship check. And we'll see you in January. Oh, and you have to do psychological evaluations because you lied to the NCAA. And oh, by the way, that car that you said was broken into, or those items I take, you have to say you falsified the police report. I say I didn't lie. Well, if you want to have a chance to come back, you were going to say it. So the whole thing was to dehumanize you, make you walk into the courtroom, say you lied, get this infraction on you, show you in the courtroom, and just, when you talk about a PR machine, God rest his soul, Steve Snap, but I say Steve Snap, you see what happened.
Sure.
These people did, they did this on purpose. So just as much as there's things that I can say, I wish I could have done different. On their side, I'm pretty sure they wish there was things that he could have done different.
I think starting from the way they handled the funeral.
So
They didn't know that it was going to become, to them it was a small thing, to you it was a big thing, and they didn't know it
here
was
we
going to go public.
If my uncle died from cancer, they would have had no problem doing that.
It was the circumstances.
You feel where I'm coming from?
No,
Right.
yep,
But
absolutely.
when you have a drug deal going bad, you have to explain this to the world. And so you 18, 19, we all could have done stuff different, like it is.
So
what it is.
Ohio State now is off the table, and you
yes.
decide rather than transfer, at the time, and it's still in existence, the NFL, you have to be 3 years removed from your senior year of high school before
Yes.
you can play.
Yes.
So you're 2 years from being eligible. You
Yes.
sue the NFL,
Yes.
and you win. And that's
Initially.
overturned
Yes.
in appeals.
Yep.
So now you have 2 years
Doing nothing.
to sit around and wait. And that is the 2-year period of time where your life really takes a dramatic turn.
So
what happens next?
When you talk about purgatory, so the short of it is, like, initially I was like, okay, I'll get ready to go. So you're naturally thinking, like, I'll be getting ready and prepare for a workout, right? And so the way Jimmy Sexton, he was the attorney at the time, and Jim Brown was talking, they were like, these are labor laws. You'll be allowed to go out here and work out and perform and try out for teams the whole nine. So after they overturned it, I was watching like a volleyball game with Penn State or whoever. When they overturned it, I was like, yo, it's over. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm not about to go to Canada for 2 years, and I'm not about to go to, at this time it was like
Was there a Europe League at the time, maybe?
Canada. It was Europe, but it was some other league. But basically, I wasn't about to go play in a secondary league and potentially get hurt. When I'm thinking like, yo,
So I'm going to wait 2 years and then enter the draft.
Yes, but I didn't realize that football structured my life up until this point, right?
And now that's
And
gone.
so football's gone. There's no interest in school. Now I go right back to the streets. But when I'm going to these nightclubs and these girls are talking about celebrating and having a good time, it went from there to like, man, I'm here because I have nothing to do. Like, so instead of waking up at 6 in the morning, I'm waking up at 10:30, 11, and you don't even understand what depression looks like. You got to figure this is like, people talk about mental health now like it's a normal thing, but this is 2003. You don't like.
It wasn't talked about then like it is now.
They thought you were a witch.
Especially not for
They
athletes.
did. No, they did. They looked at you as if you were the problem.
Yeah, right.
But you just, like, active depression, people, like, that's a real thing amongst adults. And then I think when you're an athlete, you're taught to be, like, so strong and tough through everything that you're like, nah, I'm cool, nah, I'm all right. But no, you're really sad, you're really lonely, you really want to be around your teammates, you really need something to do, you really need some structure, you really need guidance. But, you know, then when you walk out your door, you're expected to be the superstar who has it all together. So it was like this conflicted space, right? So now I'm alone all the time. Now I'm back into the streets, and now I'm hustling. Now I'm living like I'm on the south side of Youngstown again, right?
Right.
So now I'm drinking, I'm drugging, I'm smoking, I'm partying. So probably 2 or 3 times I almost lost my life hustling, right? So at this point, I get on the plane and I go to California. When I'm in California, it was literally just to get away from Ohio. I had no rhyme or reason for being out here. It was to get away from Ohio, and initially it was to hook up with Jim Brown, right? So I called Jim up, like, yo, I'm going through some crazy stuff in Ohio. I got to get away from it. Like, let me get to California, let me land here and do my thing. So when I get to California, even though I was trying to escape where I was at, Jim Brown runs like a tight ship. You know what I'm saying? He had this American program.
Very disciplined.
These guys were meeting at his house every Monday. he had like if I would actually bought into what he was selling, like I would have had success. You know what I'm saying?
Were you just not ready, maturity-wise?
I'm gonna tell you, timing. I get to LA, I go to Sunset. I'm on Hollywood and Vine at the Renaissance, and so for a week, like Jim was like in Carolina or wherever he was at, and he was gone, and like I had a chance to like experience LA. And I was like, yeah.
Bad.
Go to Jim Brown.
Maurice, this whole time, California. Maurice, the whole time that you're going through these 2 years, life is going bad, and you talked about it, getting bad habits, drugs, drinking, all this. Were there, like, when you were the stud star at Ohio State, you had all these people that wanted to be around you, all these people, and did everybody go away? Were there people trying to help you during that time, or did everybody just disappear?
No, after me, I call it what it is. After the suspension, it was over.
They were done. They had no interest in helping.
Done. I tell them to their face right now. It hurt for them to say it, but nothing. There wasn't no agent who was there. There wasn't a Jim Brown who was there. Well, aside from Jim Brown, after I went to LA, he tried to help.
Yeah.
Let me correct that. But there wasn't a Scott Schiff or Alan Ming.
So who filled that void?
Dudes in the street.
Yeah.
And you met up with some characters in LA.
Yeah.
Get into like the circle you fell into and the path that led you down is pretty dramatic.
So it wasn't. So I'll say this: it wasn't all of their fault. I'll give it like this. So I landed in LA and we went partying. This is how LA all happens. We go out partying. We all having a good time.
Who's we? Anybody we
just
would
the
know?
girls I'm with. No, just the girls I'm with.
Okay.
Well, y'all would know the girls, but we're not going.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Just the several girls he's with, Jay.
The entourage.
Because there was an entourage that came along with that LA life.
I'm telling you, yeah. So we were hanging out and we were just doing what you do in LA, right? And so what ended up happening was we went to a party in Marina Del Rey at a beach, and we were at a beach house. And what ended up happening was we staying the whole day and we're partying and having a good time, and like we partied during the day. And then they was like, yo, let's go out to Hollywood at night. So we go out to Hollywood, and we at the table, and they was like, yo, let's see if you can bring some girls back to the condo at in Marina Del Rey. So I'm like, cool. So we get some girls, we come back to the party. So after the party's over, and the girls who I was with, I end up basically connecting with the guy who owned the house. And so we're sitting there at the end of the night. He just like, yo, like, I don't need, like, he doesn't even understand football. He's like, yo, like, what are you doing out here? Like, what's going on? And so we just start talking. I didn't realize he was under federal investigation at this time, right?
Uh-oh.
So we just, we sitting, hanging, talking, and just doing, well, he had an ankle monitor on. I didn't realize the severity of all of what he was going through.
Right.
But it was just two men at the end of the night who just were hanging out. And so I said, I'm in LA, I used to play football, and I'm giving him like this vague story, but you could tell he just doesn't, he doesn't even have a fraction.
Doesn't know who Maurice Clarett
like,
is.
There's people, I don't think people know, like LA is his own.
Yeah.
Couldn't care less about sports either.
No,
couldn't care less
most
about
circles, you're right.
Yep.
Couldn't care less about anything that goes on outside of LA County.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's it.
Yeah, and so it's hard for people, it's hard to explain that to people if you've never just been in it. You could be the most famous everything and nobody cares, right? And so I'm hanging out with him, and what ended up happening, he's like, man, well, why don't you just stay out here? And I was like, cool. So we end up staying out there, and I'm kind of teaching him who I am, football and everything else, but I'm living his life just because I'm around him. Now, mind you, he lives a totally different life. This is, you go to the garage, it's 2 Rolls Royces, it's 2 Bentleys, there's a house in Beverly Hills, there's a house at the beach, there's a house in the valley.
A lot of money.
These are, this is a traditional Jewish family. There's Shabbat every Friday. It's like a different circle, bro.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a completely different circle. He's up under investigation for organized crime and the RICO Act that he's going to court for. But there was none of that going on. This was just us hanging. And I can see how it comes. Like, he was under federal investigation, so nobody wanted to be around him. I'm suspended from school. Nobody wants to be around me. But we found each other in some weird way.
Sure.
And so we're just rolling with each other every day. And there's a lot of wisdom in all this stuff, right? And you can be a guy in LA, just for context, in LA, you're hanging out all day. Like, you can go train in the morning, but you're hanging out at Sunset Plaza or Malibu or whatever for the rest of the day. You're smoking, drinking. It's the culture out there. It's not like, it's not looked down upon. Like, for somebody to get high in LA at 8 in the morning, like, who cares? Like, this is just what people do, right? So the next thing you know, as we're going through this and time passes, I'm like, oh, I got to get ready for the combine. But it's not like, that's what I was saying earlier, it's not like I'm training to get ready for a season because I'm going to get drafted. It's like, let me go run some sand dunes. Let me go over here the Dorsey High out in Crenshaw or whatever it was, I think in Compton. I don't know where Dorsey was, right? But I used to drive to Dorsey, work out with Coach C and TJ Hushmanzada and Ricky Manning and all these guys. I would train, but at the end of the night, I just wasn't motivated, right? And there's something to be said about when you're driving a Rolls Royce already before you earned it, you lose the luster to want to go get it. When you live inside of $1 million house before you actually earn it, actually you lose something to go and get it.
The edge is gone.
When you're having sex with beautiful women, and football is like everything I wanted to do through football, I was already living before football.
Wow.
You already
So
the motivation was gone.
Right. But it's hard to explain this at 22, 23. So when they saying go work at the combine, I'm like, man, this is like work. You feel where I'm coming from?
Right.
I'm with my main man every day, and I'm living his lifestyle, but at 22, 23, you think it's your lifestyle because you're doing everything. Like the guys who hang around the superstars actually have more fun than the superstars.
Sure, because they're not picking up the tab.
But they don't have to. It's like they live a fake lifestyle. You support it. I'm just around you. I get to live it, right?
Yeah.
And so all the stuff was happening. So then it's time for me to go work out, and I'm like, I'll just show up and make it happen. And obviously I didn't make it happen. So I run slow. I'm dropping the ball everywhere. I'm fumbling over my feet. I'm like, man, this thing.
And physically, you weren't in the shape that you were when you were in Columbus.
No, I'm talking about there's no, man, let me go back here. Let me lift every weight. Let me watch every film. Let me squat. Let me lunge. Let me hang clean. Let me get prepared. Let me fight him all day in practice. Like there's even a refinement of practicing hard that you need to do before you get to the NFL. You know what I'm saying? And so all that stuff was basically kind of gone. And so the 2 years went by. I was living like this. It was time to basically go play football, and I just wasn't prepared. So to make a long story short, I didn't think I was going to get drafted based on my performance prior to the draft at the combine and interviewing, and even I was in a bad place because I was like, I don't want to get drafted in the third round. Like if I actually played, I would be a top 5 pick. Like I knew myself and just knew the work I put in and where I wanted to be in comparison to where I got drafted. And maybe that was like an immature way of doing it.
Did you have substance abuse at that time?
No, if it was, I didn't call it substance abuse in my head.
But you used alcohol as a pretty heavy crutch.
No, that wasn't even a crutch. It was partying.
Yeah.
So the whole time in LA, it wasn't like, so just to clarify, in LA, I was just having a good time. Like I wasn't like, oh, man, I'm just so depressed. My life is messed up. Right. No, it was like my buddy said, hey, what you doing today? Let's get out in traffic. Let's go to Hollywood. Let's go party all night.
So it was like you was winning. Like it was like, yo, I'm with my man. We just hanging out. We doing our thing.
But you can label it wrong. So it's like you shouldn't be drinking, smoking, and drugging every day. And so, but at the time, it's easy to label it because you're having a lot of success.
You didn't think it was a problem?
No, because this is just an LA way of life. It's just a culture. It's just what you're doing out here, right? When I go back to the NFL, and it's time to live like regular civilian hard worker life. You know
and you weren't ready for that.
No, like Denver drafted me, and they thought like
they took you third round.
They took me third round. Like what Denver expected, or what I think their expectations was, let's draft him. We're not wanting him to play week 1, year 1, but we have something we can build upon, right? And so I think what they didn't really understand was that my mentality had been different, right? So when I'm in LA, what I'm calling myself is like just a gangster from Youngstown living life. That's how I'm identifying myself. I'm just a dude who from the street, football didn't work out, and so I'm just out here with my guy. He's really, he was getting investigated for running the Israeli crime mob, right? So I'm with him, so I'm identifying. This
my life's so boring. My life is so tedious.
You're not alone, Mike.
No, but these are like real stories because like the kids you see on TV every day, if you come out the hood, it's either you want to be a super celebrity in sports, or who's ever a gangster, you want to emulate that.
Yeah.
And so at 22, 23, this is what I want to emulate. This is what I think is fascinating. You watch Goodfellas, you watch The Bronx Tales, you watch gangster movies, you watch Scarface.
Yeah, it's cool.
This is very Youngstown, too. I'm from Youngstown, too. They look at like the Godfather movies as training films.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
It's true.
Exactly.
We grew up in Youngstown. Yeah. It's organized crime.
Yeah.
Right. So when I see somebody up close and personal, I can understand what he's being investigated for. I can understand what he's being charged with. And to me, this is fascinating and euphoric, but I'm not looking at myself as Maurice Clarett, who plays football. I'm looking at Maurice Clarett from Youngstown being next to him, right? So then when I go to Denver, Denver's getting Maurice Clarett from Youngstown. You feel where I'm coming from?
Not the Columbus Maurice Clarett.
No, not like if had I been prepared and refined over that time, maybe that's different. But when it's time to come to Denver, they just getting a different person, right? And so to Denver's credit, and I can so a lot of times it's just like you talk about, like the Denver thing just wasn't fleshed out. Denver seen that I was distant. So I would come to practice and I just wouldn't be around people, right? So Jerry Rice's locker was right next to mine because at that time he had left the Raiders and was trying to come around. So he had 19, I had 20. John Lynch was on our team and John Lynch's locker was not too far away. So they tried to like create this environment of like people around me, right? And at this time we had like 5 running backs in the running back room and Mike Anderson and Quentin Griffin, Veron Dane. And so guys were trying, but I looked at them and was like, man, like I'm a gangster playing football. Like it's as crazy as it sounds, and I can see it on kids' faces when I look at them. Like you can see their gestures and before the game, how they look at each other. And I done been in different spaces mentally, so I understand how it looks. You know, so I can understand when somebody thinks who they are. I can look them in their face, and I just understand what type of time they on. And so what ended up happening was Denver was like, yo, like, can you sit down with a psychologist? Like, you've been through a lot. And so what she was telling me was like, you've been through some traumatic situations prior to coming here. Let somebody help you to unravel this. But again, I'm a young dude from the hood. I'm not about to sit down and talk to nobody about my problems. What is this going to help? They're like, I don't understand rhyme or reason. And so like that would happen. And so throughout the entire process, they would just try to coach Tucker. He's coaching with the 49ers still, with Shanahan's younger son. So Coach Tucker and Jerry Rice and John Lynch. And, you know, John Lynch would come to practice before practice and do a whole routine. It was like, yo, follow him. And Gary Kubiak was the offensive coordinator. So I would start to get some stuff right on practice squad, and you can kind of see it. But then I'd be like, man, and I'm not sure people don't understand how this works in the NFL. In the NFL, it's not like you get a bunch of reps at practice. So in the NFL, you might go to practice and not get in for the whole practice. You know what I'm saying? Wow. So I was like, man, I'm coming to practice. I'm not practicing. I may be on special teams. Like, so just a whole experience where I was at mentally. I just was like, yo, this is just not where I'm supposed to be.
Did you think it was disrespectful the way that they were treating you in practice? Like not giving you the reps?
Like, yes, but then I got it. Because, like, I hated it because I knew if I was, like, it's kind of like living in the past in your mind. If I was at Ohio State and I actually played, I wouldn't be getting treated like this. Like, I would be a top 5 pick. Like, I can look at these dudes, there's no offense to them. I can tell that, I'm like, man, I'm better than these guys. But you have to put it all together. No matter what you know in here, you still have to put it together to prove it. You know what I'm saying? And so then you just have a bunch of stuff. And I believe, like, there's like universal laws that govern the world. This is what I believe, right? You didn't prepare in a way that you were supposed to steward this opportunity, so it's not going to work out. No matter how bad you want it to work out, somebody else prepared for this. You're here like short term, you know what I'm saying? And this seat is for somebody else. Now, if you get in alignment with what's going on, like you can stay, but this isn't for you. And so Shanahan tried to sit me down. I was like, yo, let's help with you. Ted Sunquist, he was the general manager at the time, and they just couldn't get through to me. And so I thought I was depressed before I got there. Leaving there was a bigger depression because I heard on the front side, like, why would they draft him? He's going to fail. Like all this stuff. You hear it, but then you get into the situation where you're actually you're fulfilling the prophecy of other people, where you actually fail and do all the stuff where you fail. Getting embarrassed in his room is one thing. Getting embarrassed on that thing is like something totally different, right?
Yep.
So then everybody call you a loser, a failure, and everything disrespectful in the book, and then you're like, yo, I got to wear this. And so at that time, I went to California, but I had like a moment where I called Coach Trussell up. I was like, yo, bro, I got to change. Like I just knew like LA wasn't for me, and it was like, forget this Rolls Royce, forget this house, forget this environment, forget these parties, forget these women. I remember where I was at. I was on Hollywood Boulevard, and they had a party, and it was just like, I can still remember to this day. I was in the far left corner. And I remember it was Kelly Rowland, Keisha Cole, Brandy, and they had a bunch of people who came and had a party. And I remember being at the party, and I remember smoking, and I knew I should have been high, the way I was smoking. And I said, man, I'm not even high. I was so, like, depressed. I was so disconnected from, like, what was going on. Like, there was nothing I could do. And I was like, man, like, this ain't where I'm supposed to be in life. So I remember going back to, I was living at the Renaissance, right by the Beverly Center. So I was living at the Renaissance. Not the Renaissance, the Palazzo. I was living at the Palazzo. I got up the next day. I called Coach Trussell. I said, yo, bro, I got to come back to Ohio. Like, this ain't working out. You know what I'm saying? Came back to Ohio, met with him, and he kind of gave me some direction and structure. Was like, yo, NFL Europe, I guess they used to have a training camp in Orlando in December. He said, man, get prepared for that. go back to class, like get your life going back on the right road. And so he had like all the good information, but I'm not going back to school. I don't have the money for that. I'm not getting ready to go get a job because I'm embarrassed. I should be like Maurice Clarett, the guy.
Right.
Like, you know,
Yep.
I can't be seen bagging groceries or whatever. I'm just, no offense to people who bag groceries, but
Your ego got in the way.
Get it.
ego, you know, y'all get it. I'm trying to give like context. Like sometimes you can say like a tidbit somebody think is disrespectful, but it's like respectfully, I looked at, go ahead.
No. You good. I wanted to stop you there because you talked about Jim Tressel.
Yeah.
During this time period, 2011-ish, a couple ball players went through the same thing you did. Terrell Pryor, Boom Herron.
Yep.
Theirs was for a little bit, you know, of
Tattoos.
accepting tattoos or moving different things. How did you believe that the university could have done something better for those guys? And did you talk to those individuals during that time, or you were just in your thing trying to figure out what you was going to do?
Oh, I got out of prison at that time. Like that's a little bit further down the road, but I got out of prison around that time, and I wasn't as in tune to all the infractions. At that time, my mind was just in a different place.
I want to go back to before prison because you said you came back to Columbus. So for the second time, you were unplugged from an infrastructure. First in Columbus, now the NFL and the party scene in Los Angeles. Take us through the infamous police chase, which ultimately led to prison.
But there was a robbery before that.
There was a robbery. You were out on that.
Yes.
Awaiting trial, and take us through what happens then.
Yeah. So in a nutshell,
you stole someone's cell phone on New Year's Eve or something.
No. So essentially, I was going out. I mean, I've said it before, but I was going out there to rob somebody else, and the alley was so dark. It was a dark alley. It was at the end of the alley. I go to the end of the alley in Columbus. I go to the end of the alley. I realize it's not them, and I just said I'm gonna rob them anyway. And I took the cell phone as a point for me so they wouldn't call the police. But as I'm walking back down the alley, the person who owned the club or who owned the bar, they were coming out. This is how I actually got caught. They were coming out, and I was friends with her. So I grabbed her, and I said, don't go back there. I just robbed those people. She said, oh, that's my sister.
Oh.
So that's how the whole thing happened. So so I took, like, that. I mean, that's literally how the whole thing happens. And then she said, that's my sister. And then in the panic, I got in the car, and I rolled off.
Then in August, you're waiting trial.
But now I'm in a deeper place.
Right.
Now I'm in like a deeper, like I'm about to go to prison for robbery. I don't have anything going on. Maybe around like February, March, I found out my lady, she pregnant. She about to have a baby. So just all of like regular life stuff, failure, drinking, drugging. I'm just hustling. I'm just doing, like basically I'm in the hood doing what you do when you're in the hood, when you don't have anything going on other than.
What year is this?
This is 2006. 2006.
Six.
Yeah, 2006. And so you fast forward, and in my mind, I'm like, yo, I was trying to, I was trying to bribe the guy to say, hey, don't go to court on me. I'll pay you for not.
Witness intimidation, essentially.
Yeah, that's a more harsh way to say it.
You sound like the judge.
No, I remember the case well. But as you would say, you're about to tell these people you better not snitch.
Yeah.
So your car is loaded for bear, and you do an illegal U-turn and take it from there.
And so I did a legal U-turn, got off at the wrong exit, U-turn. Police came behind me, and I don't know, it was like an episode of Cops, I remember. Like, it was funny when I was actually doing it, but it's not funny, right? So I said, I'll pull to the side of the road, he'll get out, he'll walk up on the car, and I'll pull off. And I was like, I seen it on Cops, so like.
Perfect plan. Perfect plan.
I got this together.
So what ended up happening was he walked up to the car, he came to the car, he got to the door, I pulled off. And so then I get over the bridge, and then I get on the road. And I'm going as fast as I can, and I always say, like, I was trying to get away in a Honda. Honda's not the getaway car, right? And so I go down, and I'm headed to a town called Pataskala, and what ended up happening was I made a U-turn going towards Pataskala. Then, the police had a spike strips. He threw the spike strips out, busted the tires, and then, in the process of the tires getting busted and all of that going everywhere, police pulled me out the car and, roughed me up. And what you've seen on TV is actually me getting thrown in the back of the paddy wagon. That was the film they had. So that's literally how that point had happened.
And with the weapons that you had, there were serious charges. You go to prison. Take us through that.
Yeah, so I think the most important part was the jail part, and this was probably the part that saved my life. So when I go to jail, they don't allow me to have a bond, which I think ultimately helped me. And the first part of jail, they mandate that I get a mental health evaluation. And so through the mental health evaluation, this was August, September 2006, came in, talked to a psychiatrist, and eventually got put on medication in 2006. And it was the first time that I was like, yo, this stuff really helped me because it helped me to stabilize my mood, right? So I went from like waking up anxious and like mad and worrying and all these emotions that, medication, just like anything else, works, right?
That's amazing. Undiagnosed his whole life, been in front of teachers, been in front of coaches. Nobody ever thought about it until he went to prison. And then finally they're like, we're going to check this guy out. That's incredible. That's insane.
Yeah, so that's what actually happened,
How long were you in prison?
The jail part, probably like 30 days. I would say, so the first part was like 30 days, but
right.
that 23-hour lockdown. So the first 7 months I was on a 23-hour lockdown, and that's really the foundation of everything. And so just you're questioning yourself. You ask yourself, how did I land in this position? You're getting letters from people like encouraging stuff. And so I knew what I was arrested for, but I'm getting like all these encouraging letters from Ohio State fans, right? And so I was like, that was the first time that I looked at Ohio State different. I was like, man, people look at this different than I did. Like, I was looking at Ohio State like a stepping stone. These people were like, my father was alive when we watched the game. That was our last significant moment. Like this, you're part of like a family memory.
How did all that impact you?
Just like it gave different context around like football. Like this was bigger than just me getting my family out the hood. Like there's a lot of kids who just say, what university helped me get rich? That's the thing. What university will get me to my end destination? The people who went from a university standpoint to get schooled and to have history and tradition and the reason that generations of families go, that is completely different, right? So I'm getting letters from those people talking about what I mean to them. This is also the first time that I pick up a book. I picked up As a Man Thinketh. It actually got handed to me by James Allen. This is the first time, and I try to press this everywhere I go, this is the first time a book actually told me that you are, basically you are what you think about. So as a man thinketh, so shall he become, until thought is linked with purpose, nothing intelligent shall ever happen. And it's a small 70-page read, but what the book did was that it makes you have ownership over thought and what you create. Like you create your life by creating your thoughts. And that was like the most impactful thing. So I ended up going to prison. I got sentenced to 7.5 years. And another thing that came into my life, it was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Conte. And Mr. Conte was a warden, and he was from Sierra Leone. But he said, Maurice, my father used to be the chief of the village. And he said, when you all got in trouble in Sierra Leone, we would bring guys closer to us, figure out what's going on, and send them back out. He said, in America, you all throw people away. And he said, I'm about to bring structure here to your life while you're here in prison to assist you. So from there, he put me into a bunch of therapeutic courses. This is what, like, if you want to talk about refining, this is what all happened. So I was in a closed, CLOSED, closed security facility, which means you're locked down for the majority of the day. So you're locked down for 20 hours out the day. So when you're locked down, it's either you're going to the education wing, you're in your housing unit, or you're going to recreation. So the first part of my day, I used to go to the education wing, and I'm taking Thinking for a Change, Responsible Adult Culture, Cage Your Rage, Drug and Alcohol Abuse, and just a host of other classes that basically make you self-reflect on what happened or how you got to this point. And so it was also, I talk about this book, it was a catalog called Bargain Books. It was the first time that I sat down and read. I used to go to commissary and I would get these legal pads. I would get these yellow legal pads for 69 cents and I would just read books. And I say, okay, when I wanted to be a great athlete, I just watch film from great athletes. Okay, what can I do? I'll get out of prison at like 26 or 27. I won't be able to play football anymore from what I've done. Like, you need to do something else with your life. So anything I can get my hands on with business and entrepreneurship and finance or investing, I would just literally sit here, order out the catalog. Books was like $4, $5, $6. These are used books and they'll mail them to you. And I would just start reading and I would just start making book reports and I'll start reading from great people and I'll start reading from the men who built America or men who built big companies. I became like religious about reading from Warren Buffett and value investing, Benjamin Graham, and I would just give my understanding on what was going on. So when I would start talking to people, I found like that I used to like to write. And that's where I started blogging from because, the more you read, the more you want to write, right? So you start getting sparked inside of your mind. And so I just started loving to write and learning to express myself. And so eventually all these young guys in prison, they start gravitating to me because They're like, yo, like this thing isn't affecting him the way it's affecting me. Like I feel like I'm wasting my time, but he's getting better. Like, or when I go to rec,
You became their example.
yes, so that's when I started to realize like I have influence over younger guys. You know what I'm saying? And so now you're hosting the classes, now you're hosting the programs, now you're like encouraging dudes. Now these guys want to get into confrontation with these guys, and guys are respecting like, nah, bro, like, you know, this ain't like go home to your family. Like arguing over a microwave or arguing over laundry really ain't worth it. And so you start to see that people receive you different. Like it went from, is he going to be arrogant to, oh, he's here just to get himself better. You feel where I'm coming from? Mm-hmm. So then I get out of prison in 2010. So when I got out of prison in 2010,
you met Warren Buffett.
Met Warren Buffett, yeah. So I'll tell you about that in a second. So so the irony of all this, to kind of show you the circle of life. I get out of prison in 2010. I get out on a Wednesday. I was having a call with a guy named Ted Sundquist, who was the general manager in Denver. He had basically got fired, and he went to work in the league called the UFL. He said, hey, Maurice, he was like, I don't know where you at in life, but he said, man, I drafted you and always loved you. He said, would you have time to try out for us in Omaha? But you got to try out Friday. So imagine I'm getting out of prison on a Wednesday, and I'm asking the judge, like, hey, I know I just got out, but can I go to play football? You know what I'm saying?
Sure, right.
In 2 states away.
Can I go back to the life that sent me here?
But you can't. So when you're on probation, you can't just. You have to have an interstate compact. So you have to contact their probation office and say, hey, a felon is there. Do you all accept him? Can you review his application? Normally this takes 3-4 months for them to even do this. They did this in 2 days.
Wow.
Right. So then I go to Omaha. And God bless Ted Sundquist, right? I tried out for them, and literally I knew that I didn't have it. I knew I wasn't good enough. And he was like, yo, I just want to help you. So he gave me a job just to be on the team. He said, now look, I want you to market for us because people will listen to you, but I just know you're not where you used to be. Like, but you can work yourself into it, right? So like it was significant. And so then I'm out here, and it was like other stuff that happened. So when I'm out here working out, and so to that point when he did that for me, I felt responsible to be the first on the field, to be encouraging, to play special teams. If you need bags picked up, if you need anything done here, I'm your guy for it because I know there's other younger guys who are better than me. I just sat in prison for 4 years, right? So next thing you know, the year after, the first year, the Kai Janikowski, whatever his name was, he coached for Boston College, Coach Matt Ryan. I forgot his name, Coach J. But we ended up going to get Coach Moglia. And Coach Moglia, Joe Moglia, he was coaching at Coastal Carolina, but Moglia had been the active CEO for TD Ameritrade, then moved on to the chairman. And so he said, hey, man, I want to get back into coaching football. And so he has spent a year at Nebraska being a general RGA, what is it called, graduate assistant. And then he said, hey, man, I want to come back to, football. So this happened to be the place that he landed. And so from reading about so much investing, I knew what TD Ameritrade was. And I knew exactly who he was. And I knew the significance of him. And the football players had no clue. They just thought this was some dude who made money. And I said, no. Like,
he's the guy.
He's the engine. He's the guy. He can give you information, so on and so forth. And so I was like aggressive about like, hey, can you teach us? Like, can you teach us about investing? Can you teach us about this? He was like, yo, I'll teach you guys anything I want to. So he used to host these classes. It was like mind blowing to me. You had guys who had been in the NFL, guys like it was the league where guys who didn't make it to the NFL, they can come to develop. I played with Michael Wilhoit. Michael Wilhoit was my teammate, right? It was guys who had to develop still, and there was older guys, Jeff Garcia, Amon Green, who were just finishing up, right? And so it was like this mixed breed of guys and coaches who can basically get you where you want to go. So he used to hold these classes every Wednesday, and what ended up happening was Joe would show up on Wednesdays, but guys wouldn't show up. And so the 2 or 3 guys who showed up was me, a guy by the name of Andrew Brewer, and a guy by the name of Matt Overton. So he said, let me take you all individually and see what's going on. So he took me out to the golf course. I said, bro, I don't play golf. And so we just, so he was like, yo, let's sit in the clubhouse. So we sat in the clubhouse. He said, tell me a story. But I told him about my fascination with investing. And this was like greatest part. Well, at this point, it was like one of the greatest moments of my life, right? You see, I'm like smiling. So he was like, I know Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. And I was like, and I ain't no everyday thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
like, it kind of made me perk up. And he was like, I'll see if he can meet you. And so I'm thinking like, yeah, all right, Mo. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I kind of like, yeah, man, like meeting you is enough. Like, you know, if it happens, whatever. So what ended up happening was I was walking through my apartment. I had watched Warren Buffett on Charlie Rose a bunch of times in prison, right? So Charlie Rose used to be like my interview of the night, whoever he had on TV. And make a long story short, he calls me and he was like, hey, can I speak to Maurice? And I knew just from how distinct his voice was, it was Warren Buffett. And he said, hey, you know, I talked to Joe. He said, you want to meet up? And, you know, I'm down here at the Kiewit building. And I'm like, I'm talking to my lady like, yo, this is Warren Buffett. And she like Warren Buffett, what are we calling you for? You know what I'm saying? And so he was like, you want to meet up on Saturday? And I'm like, yeah, I got you. Click. And I was like, he's like, no, first of all, he's like, do you have anything going on? And I'm thinking like, if I did, it's canceled. You know what I'm saying?
Right. More important than hanging out with Warren Buffett? Yeah. Nothing I can't clear up.
Yeah.
So I went down there, and so the irony was I wasn't intimidated because I read so much about him. You know what I'm saying? You know how, like, just imagine you research somebody you about to sit down and talk to. Like, I know everything about you, or at least was published, right? So I go down to the Kiewit building, and what ended up happening was the person who was supposed to meet after me canceled. So he was like, yo, you want to hang out? Like, the person canceled. And I was like, yo, cool. And so we sat down like this for like 5 hours just talking, but to the point I felt uncomfortable with him because I'm like, I'm sure you got better stuff to do to hang with me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I'm 18
But he
months.
took that time for you. That's amazing.
Man, five hours, but like just everything about his life, like even how his assistant got to him. Like his assistant at the time was like a 26-year-old farm girl who self-educated, taught herself about investing, wrote him a handwritten letter, sent it to him and said, well, she think that the value that she can add to their company. He drove out, gave her a project for the summer, hired her, and she's his personal assistant to this day.
Wow.
Just because she just had the initiative and the ambition to say, this is how I think that I can help your company. Sitting down with me just was like, just real common sense. And then was like, yo, after we got done with the meeting, was like, yo, I eat at the, it's either the Huddle House or something every Saturday, like if you want to stop by. Like then I called him like a year later. I was going to the Pistons game to the Pacers and the Knicks were playing. The Pacers and Knicks were playing a playoff game. And I called him just out the blue. I was in Ohio, and I was like, hey, what's going on? And, like, had a conversation on the phone. And there's never been a reason to call him other than to bug him. But it was cool that, like, somebody who has this much influence and power sort of going through this. So I was going through all of that prior to the 30 for 30. Mm-hmm. So then the 30 for 30 came around. That's how, like, me and you reconnected, right? Sure. So then the 30 for 30 became a thing. And I didn't know anything about 30 for 30s at this point. I hadn't watched TV in years in prison, well, cable TV. And then they did a 30 for 30, but the 30 for 30 ultimately changed my life. And so they had captured everything that was going on in my life up until that point. And it originally wasn't supposed to be about me and Coach Trussell. The Trussell thing happens from the thing at Ohio State happens. And Coach Trussell at this time is guarded and doesn't really want to be bothered with anybody. But me and Coach Trussell had reconnected after he had went through that. Like that thing that he went through at Ohio State actually made me and him closer. So that entire summer we were talking. He knew
what you went through because it happened to him in a different way.
And so we're talking again through the whole summer, but it's not like, hey, I hope you get yourself back together. It's just like the changes of life. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so then when I called upon him that August, September, whenever it was, I said, hey, Coach, can you talk to these people? They're not here to talk about some malicious story. So he's like, yo, I got like 20 minutes for you, and we're going to keep it within a certain framework. And what ended up happening was we went to a hotel in Akron, and I sat downstairs for like 5 hours. And so he gave him 5 hours. So then when the people at ESPN seen the material, they said, this isn't a Maurice Clarett story. We want to make this about both of them, right? And so what ended up happening was, as much as it's done for me, it's done the same thing for him because they seen him in a different light.
It rehabilitated both of your images,
both of us,
really.
100%. So I get done with the story, my fault. I get done with that story, and then they air it, and out the blue, I had like, I don't know, 1,100 emails between Facebook and just my regular email address, and then that's how this machine sort of started again.
Is that what, more than anything else, changed your life to where you are today? Was just sitting down with 30 for 30 and
yeah. So I would have been one. Your reputation is the most important thing. If I could tell anybody else, like if you're a POS, like that POS thing will follow you everywhere you go. Having people give you a chance to talk to you. What the 30 for 30 did was that I don't have to explain what went to Ohio State. If you watched it, you understand it. Now we're just talking like two human beings. But what the universe allowed me to do was that the preparation from prison allowed me to carry on intelligent conversation. It allowed me to have like depth as a human being. And so we're just engaging. I was engaging people totally different. That sent me out to speak. Like at this point, I didn't even know they paid people to speak at this point, right? So if you would have said like, I'll give you 2 wooden nickels, I'd be like, all right, come on, let's go.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? But that allowed me to make money. And then the money I made from speaking, I parlayed that into building a transportation company. And the transportation company built me into treatment centers. Then treatment centers took me to medical centers. You know what I'm saying? So
where are you today with your businesses?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's like uncomfortable.
I know you're humble about this,
Yeah.
but just
how many bags you getting out of
yeah, just no. You know what? The reason I asked this question, and last night when we talked about it on the phone, he is humble and he's modest about this, but I'm going to ask you not to be just for a second, and the reason I'm going to
see, I start sweating, right?
All of a sudden, you were fine. He was fine talking about prison. He's fine talking about. So he's like, accomplishments.
This is now like your flex moment. And I know you're not going to take it. I know you're not. But the reason it's important, Maurice, because the cherry on your story is that second chances happen.
Yeah,
this is my favorite redemption story I've ever seen.
From the high of the highs to the low of the lows
to where you are today.
I think for me, it's speaking to the young black men out there, because they're like you said, when you come from where you from, you either gonna do something in the streets, you're gonna be a pastor, a preacher, or you're gonna dribble a ball or run a football.
100%.
It shows people that you can make a living out here. And you can do something besides that, because some people only think you can do certain things.
So even if life started off hard,
right,
or bad, you can bounce back.
So where are you now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'll go in just an order, right? So we own a very successful mental health and recovery center where we engage with about 600 kids in Youngstown on a daily basis, and we work with all their psychological, social, and emotional needs, and I'm proud of that. And we work with a handful, we work about like 60 adults in a recovery program that we house and treat and help to get employed and help to stay clean and drug free from any thing that they abuse. And, we have, roughly about 70 employees doing that. I own about 200 units with real estate, single family and multifamily homes.
Wow.
And we do, we're the largest foot and ankle group. This is probably, I'll hang my hat on this. We're the largest foot and ankle group, podiatry group in the state of Ohio. And we partner with physicians throughout the state and throughout the country with their medical practices, either purchase to them in full or partially purchase to them. That's why I'm in Cleveland so much. We've partnered with some great physicians up here that we have, and I own a few vascular surgery centers. And so people who basically are looking to not get their legs amputated, we own a place in Garfield Heights, we own one in Youngstown, and one down in Columbus. So anybody who's looking to stop their legs, prevent it from getting amputated, we help to clean out arteries and help you to stay healthy. But I don't know, I'll say this, I have some phenomenal partners. Vladimir Zietzer, who basically introduced me to all this stuff. He's a podiatrist out in California. He's the irony of everything, I met him through my friend when I was in California. The friend who I was with, he was a neighbor inside the, I got 2 minutes.
You do?
Okay.
Yes.
So I'll give you this, right? Just learning how to be your best self at all times. And I'll say this, right? So I'm very proud of what we do with engaging with kids at mental health and addiction services. I'm very proud of what we do with adults with recovery services. And we have a great team, and Dominic Mancini, Eric Ongaro, Nicolette Bleacher, our whole infrastructure over there, they've been doing that with me for some time. To fast forward now, I was in California. This is how I got into buying practices inside of vascular surgery centers, right? So what ended up happening was I was out in LA helping somebody to teach them how to build a recovery center. So they said, hey, we send all of our kids to Passages in Malibu. They was like, how do you build a center? And so they said, hey, there's a house in the neighborhood that we'll buy and turn into one, but could you tell us how to do it? So I was talking to them about building a center. Like, this had nothing to do with me trying to get business out here. I was just helping somebody. And I was displaying my best thinking. Like, I think everybody should display their best thinking at all times and just help people without any sort of thing. And so the guy was listening to me. And so I'm not sure who he thought I was prior to talking, but he was listening to me and like, oh, okay, like this probably wasn't what I expected, like the way I came, right?
Sure.
And so he was like, hey, like, do you know any diabetics in Ohio? I was like, yeah. He was like, Ohio has diabetics, and I said yes. And he was like, who do you know? And I said, he was like, do you know any doctors? And I said, I know a bunch of podiatrists. The irony is that before I came to LA, I just finished talking at a podiatry conference. You feel where I'm coming from? So after you're done, people giving you cards, people giving you information. I kept them, so I just knew these guys. Fast forward, rewind that part. My daughter, this was her spring break. I wanted to go to Florida. She said, no, Daddy, let's go to California. So you just think about this stuff. If I don't agree to my daughter, if I'm selfish and I don't
you
go to Florida,
this doesn't happen.
no, I don't have this conversation. If I don't have this conversation, I don't run into him. If I don't run into him, I don't have the conversation of being out here. Then I come back to Ohio, a couple more defining moments. So at this time, I'm buying a 30,000 square foot building that I think that I'm about to put more recovery services into. And I'm about to make this hub and do all this other stuff. He came out here, he said, hey, let's partner up. Like, show me your physicians that you know. So I went around showing him physicians, we got together, and he's sort of looking at the deal, and he said, hey man, if you partner with me on this property, I'll partner with you inside these medical services. He didn't know prior to this, I had a 10-year lease that would have guaranteed a sign for this building. So the building would have been leased up. I would have had like multi-million-dollar property, probably worth $3 million. It's leased up. I can leverage this and go build $50, $60, $70 million worth of real estate just off of this. But I slowed down and partnered with him to go build something else. So then as we're building, this is in the midst of COVID and everything else, we weren't even going to buy practices. We ended up hooking up with somebody else. Watch this. So my tutor from college kept in touch with me in prison. So I'm going to tell like this funny story. He kept in touch with me when I was in prison. He said, man, we should just tell your story because your story isn't what everybody thinks it is. So he gets back in touch with me. And as we're talking, he said, hey man, I know you do real estate. I have a friend who does real estate as well. His name is Mike Leach. Mike Leach, my partner, he was the nationwide CFO for the past 20 years. So you want to talk about a machine, like I got a machine next to me, right?
It's amazing.
So he says, can you talk to him? So I end up going to talk to Mike Leach. Me and Mike Leach are talking. I never know who he is at first, but I can tell as we're talking, he's jotting down every note. And I was like, yo, this dude's stealing my stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so at the end of it, I just started to realize that's just how he works and how he thinks. And then he said, hey man, I got this guy who's a friend of mine named Brian Inkrot, who's talking about buying podiatry practices. So initially I came to build vascular surgery centers. The first people who see vascular disease are podiatrists. So when he told me that his friend was buying podiatry practices, I said, I need to meet this guy.
Right.
So then from there, what happens was my job was to make sure everybody can play well in the sandbox. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So then I'm just like the glue to the piece of what we're doing. And so then together we start purchasing practices. And like, you know, we have all 30-odd practices right now. And
you talk about cosmic energy and it all coming together. That's the way it was supposed to be. Mike, do we break or do you
guys, let me just say something here because I think this is really important, Mike. Hold on. Because in a way, your story is extremely unique because of your celebrity and how big you were at a young age. But I think there's a lot of parts of your story that all of our viewers can relate to, at least parts of it, right? Whether it's addiction to drugs or alcohol, whether it's mental illness, which especially among men and especially among athletes is very less taboo now. But there's a little part of this that I noticed from your whole story that you kept going back to that really struck me. It's like, and on a much lesser degree, like when I was 23 years old, I lost a ton of weight. And now when I gain the weight back, every time I try to lose weight, I beat myself up because I was that weight. And it's harder for me to lose it because I'm like, oh, why did I blow it? And a couple of times in your story, you went back and you were like, well, I should have been a higher pick because I was there. I was at the mountaintop. And I think that's a little part of this that people can relate to when that success, that great success early, almost led to, it sounds crazy, but it almost led to all the bad things that happened because you were constantly frustrated that you couldn't be who you were.
So to your point, so I was living in the past.
Yeah.
But what changed? I picked up that book. That book influenced me a lot.
That changed. That got you out of that mode.
Because like when you think that life is like this series of things happening to you, you don't think that you have any governance or control over yourself. And you start to realize that everybody is where they're at because they thought themselves in that situation. If you haven't progressed, it's because you haven't thought yourself out of that situation. If you haven't accomplished something, it's because of that. like that's kind of like how I got out of that moment of like living in the past. Oh, like victim, like Ohio State hurt me, Andy Geiger hurt me, Jim Tressel hurt me, everybody hurts me. And it's really like a passive way instead of like take ownership. The circumstances are what they are. Let's build it. Let me build myself out of this. But also that drives me, like all of that failure. And believe me, I've heard everything on TV. I've seen everything on TV. And I used to really think, I said, man, when I finally, I don't know whatever rich is, when I finally make it, I'll say that, right? When I finally make it, I'll feel good like I gave it to somebody. And I remember a few years ago, I had more money than, like, I was like, man, I got money. I don't have to worry about money, right? And I remember saying to myself, like, man, this doesn't feel like I thought it would feel. And that took me out of a shallow place where I thought like I was going to do something to show somebody I had something. And
you find a finish line where you're just like, I made it.
But you have made it because look at the influence you can be and are for so many people that have struggled.
So with that, but I think everybody has to go through this. At least I had to go through it. You have to attain something that you think is important for you to put context around and be like, yo, it's not really that deep, right?
Yeah, right?
So we had a conversation on the phone last night. I was like, yo, if I can't go do something well and I can't give my all to it and it really can't help anybody, regardless of the money, I don't even want to be involved in it. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
And so but then you say to yourself, like, why couldn't I get there before I had some sort of money? And then you have these conversations with yourself. You say, like, I don't know, I guess these are men conversations, these are life conversations. It's not like this is a Maurice Clarett problem.
Sure.
Because there's somebody out there right now who can't wait to get to some financial destination to prove to somebody or to show somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you get there and you be like, yo, this ain't really what I thought it was.
Yep.
I give you a quick story. I was in the transportation business and I had a bunch of success doing transportation and a bunch of success doing packaging, right? And I made a lot of money. And I remember going to the transportation place, like I was like, yo, like this don't fulfill me. Like putting a box on the truck and moving a box out just doesn't do nothing for me. Like I probably have more fun doing this and laughing and joking than probably do other stuff. And I know how to do the other stuff and it's fun to make money, but it's not like the focal point of like why I do everything. But if you rewind to, not say more longer than that, probably 15 years ago, if it didn't have $1 on it, I was like, man, I'm not doing this. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't know,
Change,
but I called that success.
Yeah.
But then I used to hear, like, it used to sound cheesy when I heard other people talk about it, but like, it's real. You know, where you just like do what makes you happy, do what makes you smile.
That's success, happiness.
Yeah, and you're making a difference.
It shouldn't come with a dollar sign.
Yeah.
If you're happy. So quickly, we got a little bit of traffic to take care of. Mike wants you to put your earpiece in because he's got something to say.
Oh.
While you do that, you told me a couple of years ago the story when you met Mike Tyson. I think that's a great story. Share that, then Mikey's going to jump in, and then we're going to take a quick break. But the Tyson story is too good to leave on the table.
Yes, I forgot all about that. So I went to.
He's had so many experiences, he forgot about his Mike Tyson.
Right? I lead with that.
I mean,
that's my lead.
Warren Buffett is the lead.
No, so I was getting ready for my baby shower. My son was getting ready to be born, and I was getting my phone blown up because I was actually getting dressed. And I thought people were telling me like, "Yo, get here," and I'm thinking like, "Yo, I have time because I'm going to be on time." And so my phone is blowing up and blowing up and blowing up. And then I answered, and I was like, yo, what's up? They was like, yo, Mike Tyson want to talk to you. Like, he's standing right here. And there was a bunch of players, so I thought they was joking. And everybody know I love Mike Tyson, right? Yeah. And so I hang up on him like, my fault. Like, get out of here, right?
That's not Mike Tyson.
Like, this ain't Mike Tyson. Yeah. So what made it believable was they FaceTimed me. So when they FaceTimed me, I picked it up. And he was like, what's up, what's up, what's up? And he was like, what's up, MFer? Like, you know, said like, what's up? But I could see he's genuinely happy to see me. And so he's like, man, get your butt down here, blah, 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 blah. I want to see you. So I'm like, surreal moment, like, Mike Tyson want to see me? Like, this blew my mind, right? Yeah. So I get ready, and now I'm passing my lady up when I'm getting ready to walk out the door. I'm like, yo, I got to go to a baby shower, but Mike Tyson called me, right? So like, I explained this all to her, like, in 2 seconds, right? And so she like, all right. So I get in the car, and I'm driving over. So the irony of all this is that Adam Rittenberg is with me from ESPN. Right. So Adam is there doing a story about something completely different. You can't even make this stuff up. Adam's at my house. I put Adam in the car, and I'm like, yo, we going to see Mike Tyson. Like, turn of events, right? He think he's going to a baby shower, right? So we go to, we get to the hotel, and Mike had just finished up doing like a autograph signing. So I go in the room, and the first thing that get me was, I see my man Pete Rose. So Pete Rose right here, he always wear that white hat, right? Yeah. So I see Pete, and I start smiling because I'm a Pete Rose fan. I don't know nothing he did, but I just know Pete Rose, right?
So he had more hits than anybody in the history of baseball. That's
okay. Like I just know it's Pete Rose though, right?
Yeah.
So I see him, and then I see Mike, and so then I see Mike. He like boom, like blow up, like yo. He come over to me, give me a hug, and he was like, you have no idea, you changed my life. And I'm like, all right, this is getting weird. Like, what I'm saying? like what happened? And so like we get to talking, and so he stand across me like man to man, like, but he get like closer up on me. He was like, nah, you changed your life. But he poking me in the chest. He like, nah, you did it. And I was like, yo, and I was like, what you talking about? So I had him explain it. So at this time, you had like people who were in the room, and he was like, man, I was getting ready to have a big orgy. And so he canned it, right?
Yeah.
He was like, I'm in the middle of getting ready to have an orgy. So, man, this dude has an impeccable memory.
Oh, my God.
So, prior to me coming back to Ohio, I was with Prince Marcus from Germany and Mike Tyson at a party. It was called Excalibur after the club. So, in LA, you can go to the club, then you will park your car inside of this, like, fictitious parking lot, and they'll take these 15-passenger vans to, like, movie sets. So, these movie sets are done at night, and so they rent them out to people to throw after parties. And so, you come in, and you would have, like, all these people.
been there.
Yeah, so you have these people hanging from the roof, and it's like this whole deal. And he was there, so Mike Tyson is next to me, and the dude Prince Marcus was there. He's Josh Gabor's son, right? So he's talking to me. So Mike's hitting me. Was like, yo, you got any X? Like, find me some X. So I'm like, all right. You said Mike Tyson find me some X. I'm going to find you some. So I'm going around the party trying to find you something. I didn't find him nothing, and he went back to that moment. He was like, yo, I remember when I see you in LA. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, that was 2005. Like, how do you remember this is 2020? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, how do you even connect those dots? And he said, when I see you on TV, he said, if that effort can get his life together, I know I can. So he said it was that moment. So he said, I left the girls in the room, and he said, I really start working on myself. But he said it was that moment. So mind you, he's bawling, crying. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, yo.
Wow.
Like, it just felt like surreal, uncomfortable. Like, I got to go to a baby shower. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I ruined Mike Tyson's orgy.
Adam from ESPN is sitting there going, what just fell out of the heavens into my lap?
He wants to go to the orgy.
So just imagine the content that he has in front of his face.
Boy.
Wow.
And so he's like, yo. And I'm like, yo. And he was like, man, I don't even know what to say. I can't believe this thing is happening. He don't understand in my head. I'm like, I can't believe it's happening. You know what I'm saying? And so we finished up, and I stayed with him for a couple hours. And so then I get to my baby shower. The baby shower almost over. You know what I'm saying? And but it was good. It was surreal.
In a lot of ways, you guys lived parallel lives.
Yeah, he was
Fame early,
Yeah.
superstars. It all crashed down, but now you're both in great places.
Yeah, but I tell you, I seen him when he did an Oprah interview when I was in prison, and just his vulnerability. But I could see how you can live a life where people. So like when you're a strong person, you have other strong people that look to you. But what they don't do is they don't come up to you and say you influence them. Like I would never go to somebody stronger who influences me and out of nowhere say that you influence me. And I think like when you see them do different acts, that influences you and encourages your behavior. And so like that happened, like, and I seeing him do that encourage me. Or if somebody who's strong, if they see me, it'll have to be like a weird moment where we're not in front of people, they'll say it. And he's been like a guiding light for me in a lot of different ways, because like I can identify, like once you do 4 years in prison and you go through that, like you're in no condition, like you can sell a seat, you can sell a ticket, you'll have people who know who you are, but you're not the same person. You're not in the gym knocking people out, you're not sparring, you're not running, you're not conditioning. And like what you even care about after 4 years in prison becomes, totally different. And the conversations you have and or the aspirations of being great. Or when I got out of prison, it wasn't important to be like some football figure. I was thinking about like, how do I get my life together? But I'll say this, because I said it to somebody on the way up here. Probably one of the greatest moments of my life, and it doesn't mean nothing to anybody else but me. My brother, he was in the streets his entire life, mixing, moving, hustling. He's the older brother, I'm the youngest. And my brother came to me, he said, man, like, I'm proud of you. You influenced me, you encouraged me. I don't know if y'all have brothers, like if you have an older brother, right?
The dynamic of having a younger brother or an older brother say that to a younger brother is rare.
Yeah, it was surreal, and it like that. like I can see why they say when kids don't have parents in their life and they don't encourage them. Like my older brother was sort of like our father to me and my brothers, and to have him say that, I was like, yo, that probably compliment went better than anybody else, but it encourages the path. Like if that makes any sense.
No,
but
it does.
I don't know.
Mikey, jump in. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, two things real quick. Maurice, for everyone at the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, whenever you want to come back on, that chair is all yours. You are more than welcome to come on the panel whenever.
Great honor. He doesn't offer that to everyone.
Yeah, no, he doesn't.
First person we've offered that to.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Secondly, we do have to take a really quick break.
Okay.
When we come back quickly, we're doing the weight loss challenge with G and Bush
And final
Mike
take.
Polk and his final take.
Okay, very good. Before we do all that, I want to give a heartfelt thank you on behalf of everybody on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Absolutely, Maurice.
Good stuff.
We sat here for an hour and a half, and I could go on forever. But your story is influential. It's powerful. It's motivational. It's everything wrapped up into this unbelievable hour and a half that we got to spend with you. Thank you for opening up everything to us. And if people watch this, it's memorable for sure. So thank you, Maurice. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, weight loss challenge. And Mike's the only one that gets a final take today?
It's all that matters.
That's all good. It's all good. We'll be right back. Thanks.
Hey, it's Adam the Bull for the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and I'll tell you what I think of when I think of Cleveland sports. It's that everybody loves it. I've been to other parts of the country, and there's people that love sports and people that don't care. But in Cleveland, everybody cares even a little bit from every walk of life, and that's what makes this city special. Whether it's football, baseball, or basketball, it doesn't matter. The people of Cleveland and Northeast Ohio love their teams like nowhere else in the country.
News you can trust should be news you can rely on.
And every night at 11 on What's Next, you can rely on us.
A new legal twist for Brown.
Today also marks the beginning of
We're here, and we are going to continue.
So the Guardians have to play almost. You can rely on us to help you go to bed better informed with stories that prepare you for tomorrow.
And with news that's relevant to your life. We'll make sure that you're ready for what's next.
Because being ready for tomorrow is what matters most.
We face challenges every day, some bigger than others, and we never know what's around the corner.
Through the highs and the lows, whatever we face it together. Each morning on Go, we are here with the facts, because what impacts you impacts all of us.
And understanding those facts helps us to make informed decisions for our families, our communities, and our future.
We are here for you every step of the way. Go, weekday mornings, 4:30 to 7 a.m.
Cleveland sports to me is bigger than anything. It's bigger than some people's marriages. They say the Dallas Cowboys are America's team. No. Dallas is not America's team. Cleveland is America's team. And sports in Cleveland is a religion. It's a way of life. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter. Sports is a way for people in Cleveland to get together, and it's something that can't be replicated in Cleveland. Sports is a thing.
All right, we're back, Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. So we had a tape package prepared for the weight loss challenge. Bull and G. Bush tipped the scales this morning, and I was fascinated to see where they came in.
Let me get my belt.
We put the People's Champ belt on.
Just gonna add weight. Just adds weight.
Mikey McNuggets, throw the graphic up so we can show the comparison here. So Bull tipping in at his felt 315. And G. Bush, there's a little bit more to him. He's 6'4".
Yeah.
346. I love the reach. Shorter.
It's important to know.
And by the way, man, you forgot my and a quarter. I'm about to 6'4" and a quarter. I'm shrinking every year, but you got to get
You're
my
going
height.
combine height.
Yeah, combine height, man.
So what is the goal here? What's the end game? How much do we want to lose, and how do we determine a winner?
We're going to do the whole rest of the year to the end of the year, right?
We're gonna do the rest of the year.
And G and I have this plan. It was his idea yesterday, because yesterday I was like, I'm going out to have one more fatten up lunch. So I say to him, come have lunch with me.
Gotcha.
You've never been to the Slyman. So we go
Great
to Slyman's.
choice.
We have a great time.
Great choice.
It was phenomenal. And we were talking to everybody in the restaurant, right? We talked to everybody.
You probably added 3 pounds to your weight just yesterday.
But I think we added some from viewers, too, because we were chatting with everybody in the restaurant.
Good.
So we go in there. We have a great time. And G says, we got to go every week and have lunch, but we got to go to places and we got to figure out what the healthy options are on the menu.
Yes.
And we're going to eat the healthy options.
Salads.
Well, not just salads. But give me salad all the time.
The options.
JJ.
Salmon,
Grilled
maybe?
chicken,
People
fish.
like
I know
salmon.
you don't eat fish.
Jay has celery sticks, man. You can't have
Every
celery
day.
every day, bro.
So we're going to do that. We're going to try different restaurants. We're going to go throughout Cleveland. He and I both live on the west side, so we'll probably do some west side stuff too.
Very good.
Maybe
So at the end of the year, now do we do weekly weigh-ins, monthly weigh-ins?
We'll do weekly.
Weekly. Okay.
weekly.
So we'll check. Boy,
Every
this is a
Tuesday.
lot of pressure on you,
That's
Ken.
pressure, yeah.
Like, don't come in here heavier
Now,
next week.
He's got two advantages. He's 10 years younger, which
Oh,
you
he
know
already
is a big
selling.
advantage.
He politicking
relevant.
already.
That's a big advantage.
He already politicking. Listen, I done had, I had 13 surgeries. How's about that, boo?
Wow.
What does that have to do with losing weight?
Hey, listen, I can't feel my body. My lower body, I want to go to one of those
You have
treatment
trouble. You
joints.
do have trouble sleeping. I sleep with a CPAP. You need a CPAP.
I do, I do.
You still want to acknowledge? You don't want to do that yet?
I went to a sleep clinic.
will
I
help
told them,
you, I'm telling
I
you.
said, look, they said I got sleepless leg syndrome, by the way, like it's a real thing. And I sleep like 2 hours a night, but that's
We were sharing our experiences of going for the sleep study.
You guys are a
awful.
wreck.
Yeah, but
Have y'all went to go consult with a physician?
yeah.
That's
a valid
Hey,
question.
that's
You get all these wires connected to you, and they make you go to sleep at like 9 o'clock.
See,
I can't go to sleep at 9 o'clock.
So I will give them this. So so people don't know. So I do got a pain management doctor, right? So I tore my ACL in both knees. I tore my PCL. I've had back surgery, L5S1. I've had neck surgery. Now the neck surgery is the one that's really rough, you know.
That was recent, right?
That was recent. I just had recent neck surgery.
Yeah.
And so what I got to do is I got to lose some weight to get it off my frame. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
My neck. So I got 3 herniated discs that cannot be operated on.
Oh, wow.
So you have to lose weight.
So I got to. So it ain't just because I want to.
No, so I was asking because the older you get, you start to lose testosterone.
And it becomes harder to lose weight.
No, I'm being serious. Like I went to a doctor and literally I went to go get a whole physical and got scanned, the whole deal. And I had a system for losing weight. I don't know if this is like y'all spitballing this.
Well, we're gonna try to motivate each other. I'm gonna do the intermittent fasting. I'm not eating anymore before the show until like 1:30 or whatever.
What do you think of that, Maurice? Because I hate that idea.
And so so whenever I have to lose weight, I'll do intermittent fasting and I carb count. So like I can go to about let's say about 4 or 5 and then eat within like a 2-3 hour window, but that's just how I've done it. Or or just cut carbs and I'd like we was talking about before, asparagus, ribeye, sweet potato.
Right.
Like I can do
It's
that.
worked for me. It's worked for me before. Obviously, I put some weight back on.
We got a goal in mind, so you got to go, right? What's your goal?
My goal is 225. I mean, I'm not going to get there by the end of the year, but that's my long-term goal.
That's what, 90?
Put that back up there.
That's 90 pounds.
Man, that's 90 pounds.
That's a lot.
G. Bush, what's your goal?
I want to get to at least 240.
I'm telling you, man, you should go to a doctor, get a blood panel, and you should have somebody healthy
because if you do have low T, they can boost that up and it will help you lose weight.
I'm trying to help him cheat.
I'm
trying to help you.
I'll tell you, I'm inspired by Maurice's story, and even though obviously weight loss is not the same, but I'm addicted to food. G and I are both binge eaters. That's an addiction. I mean,
yeah,
and
you've got to treat that before you lose the weight.
Absolutely, I'm in therapy. I take. But yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it.
Have you guys talked stakes? Like, did someone win something if one of you wins?
Yeah, what is
that? We haven't come up with. We have time on that.
But the cool thing about it, we are planning.
Change the belt every week.
No, you can't have the belt. The belt it stays with
What
me.
if he loses more weight than you next week?
Yeah, I'm taking that belt.
I'll give it to him for next week. I'm already paying for lunch next week too.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, but but I will tell you, you are correct. See, I am. I've already started my program. I've gone to a place, right?
It began with that bag of
Did you get your testosterone?
So
I'm trying to help you.
But here's the thing. I can't talk to him now. You listen. I need a spot. You can't see. I'm not gonna tell y'all's name. You gotta come. We ain't gonna.
Oh, you want a sponsor?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can't tell
Well,
anything.
and what we also need is fans that also need to lose weight. There's a lot of fat people out there. Right?
You hear that, fans?
A lot of fat people.
You tubbies?
We want to do this with you. So if you're out there, get on this weight loss challenge, lose weight with us, send your videos to us, we'll make it a whole thing.
Yeah, what are you doing when you losing weight? What you doing? And I think the email address is ucss@wkyc.com. Send your videos over there. You get on the
Any
scale
sponsorship ideas that you have?
And give me. Hey, by the way, there's a couple. Wait, look, I got a couple videos coming out. Don't wait. You gotta wait it out. These guys already got my stuff. But I will tell you, that is a very good option. They take a little blood test. They tell you what's going on. And,
I'm telling you, I wish so. I went to a physician, and so you know,
gotta do that.
as
Yeah,
you
you
get
gotta go.
older,
Yes.
your testosterone drops,
it's science.
which gives like your vitality. There's a reason.
And so, what are you now? Your playing weight was?
My playing weight was about like 238.
And so
like
what do you?
255 now.
So how much you weigh down?
About 255.
See, that ain't bad.
No, that's good.
My playing weight 272. My joint is at 346.
Yeah, you got a long way to go.
Hey, you ain't got to go do all that.
All right. But I love you, Gene. Doesn't usually matter, but we're running out of time.
Pike, we got to get to Mike's final take.
Segment idea real fast, though. We should bring the treadmills in from the gym, and you guys should host on the treadmills at least once a week.
That'd be good. 2 hours on the treadmill.
Yeah, with the emergency system right outside the door, just in case one of you falls over.
I appreciate being given the opportunity to offer my final thought, even though we're running short on time. And I'm only being given this time because it's so important, because there was just such a terrible, terrible, heinous thing that happened here yesterday. An atrocity, an unprovoked attack from my co-host right here on cat lovers. Settle down.
He's
for some
judging you
reason,
right now.
For some reason, bring the judgment. Bring the judgment, you cat haters.
You weird cat people.
No, here we go. Out of nowhere, nobody even said to you yesterday, like, defend being a dog owner rather than a cat owner. You could have talked about anything in the world. Your closing thoughts could be about anything. You've complained about people bumping into your grocery cart. You complained about politics. You complained about sports. And then all of a sudden, unprovoked, he just starts calling everyone who likes cats a cat lady and calling us losers.
He did.
Now, I have 2 cats myself. I'm a proud cat daddy. I'm not ashamed to say it. In fact, I believe I have a picture here, maybe. Do I have my picture of me and my cat? That's me and my cat. That's me and my cat, McDuck.
You act like you belong in
I don't know what's so funny about this. That was my Christmas card. Oh no! If he dies, who wins the weight loss thing?
I'm gonna die.
No, you're fine. That's me and my cat. Just a quick note to all of you dog people out there. And I am not a dog nor a cat person. I have a cat. You don't have to be a person. I have pets. I like pets. I like dogs.
You do.
I like cats. I just find cats more interesting, and I respect them more. I like dogs. I can't respect them because dogs will like anyone. Dogs will love you regardless. If you just have a hot dog in your pocket, a dog will chase you around all day. You can be mean as hell. Here's some people who had dogs. Jeffrey Dahmer had a dog, all right? Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, had a dog.
And they probably loved them.
Yes, absolutely. Now, is that true? I don't know. I made that up, but it could be true. And it sounds like it might be. People who have cats are secure in themselves. I don't care if men know that I have a cat. We could take it down now. I think it's been up enough. But my
can't be up enough.
No, you're right. Anyways, my point is, by casting this wide net on all cat people and suggesting that I am just some secretary who stays at home alone with my cats all the time, is insulting to cats and cat lovers everywhere. McDuff and Finn McCool. I'll see you boys when I get home.
Oh, that is one of the best pictures I think I've ever seen in my life.
It's pretty solid.
Yeah, I know. Mike is a legit cat lover.
I like cats. I'm not gonna argue. I'm not gonna come.
Well, you told me
apologize
once. You told me once. Dogs are easy. Cats, you got to work for their affection.
You got to earn them. You know what I mean?
I've been trying to earn the respect and love of my wife's cat for 10 years.
That's the other thing. You're talking about how, I got poop in my house.
Buckets.
You're the one. I have a cat. Like, I can leave my cat. I'll leave my cat for like 4 days, and I'll just like forget about it. I come back, it's fine. You can't do that with your dog. You leave a big bowl of food out, something like that. You're following your dog around like you're a servant, following your dog around the street, waiting for it to crap. You're like, you ready, sweetheart? You don't want to go right now? I'll come back out when you're ready. My cat craps. I don't even know about it. I clean that litter box maybe once every 3 months. So it's not that much maintenance. You're the one who's a slave to your dog.
Yeah. You see this nonsense?
Wow.
Just letting you know.
Oh, that's so funny.
That was great. Mike, thank you. Again, Maurice, thank you. We are out of time, so we're going to go. We went 23 minutes of overtime today, which, when we want to go long, we go long.
Mm-hmm.
There's no problem with that. Tomorrow's show, Tim Couch, former Browns quarterback, will join us on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. I'm just going to say this for Tim. You got a long way to go to live up to the story of Maurice today. I don't know if you can do that.
He was watching. He's like, oh, my God, nothing's ever happened to me.
Can I cancel? I'd like to come on Thursday.
Right.
Maurice, thanks again. Great to catch up with you.
Maurice,
and we will see you again on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you tomorrow, 11 a.m. here on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
Peace. See you guys.
Well done, man. Well done.
Hey, man.